Chapter 203. Chapter 203. Breakthrough. 4 sword essences were combined. Exceptional gold core realm. Facing the fierce attacks from the long spear, the geniuses from the Cosmos Empire were hastily trying to stop and resist it, including Gu Yan and Zhang Kong. At the same time, Bailey Chen, Feng Yuqian, and Mu Yingying directly glided out, with a slightly frenzied glistening in their eyes. Boom! The terrible thundering sounds were suddenly heard in the void. Yang Zishuan had already engaged himself in a confrontation with Ling Xueyu. Rumble! The energy waves were violently rolling. However, when the waves were about close in on Jian Wushuang, they were stopped by an aquamarine torrent. The confrontation between the geniuses from the Tianzong dynasty and the Cosmos Empire was extremely fierce as soon as it began. Yang Zishuan directly engaged himself in the slaughter with Ling Xueyu. Ling Xueyu was called a monster. Sure enough, his strength was stronger than the geniuses from other dynasties. Even Gu Yan, who was ranked 3rd place on the standings, was not his match. However, having broken through to the half-step yin-yang realm, Yang Zishuan greatly enhanced his strength. In addition, he cultivated the high heaven technique. Once he fully displayed this technique, the heavenly qi would transform his strength to be extremely overwhelming. Thus, Yang Zishuan was absolutely powerful enough to engage in a fierce fight with Ling Xueyu. As for the other geniuses of the Cosmos Empire, they already engaged themselves in the fight with Su Ro and her other 3 comrades. With the monstrous aura, Su Ro displayed Aquamarine Torrent one more time. Additionally, Bailey Chun and the other 2 comrades were around supporting her. As a result, they successfully resisted the attack from the Cosmos Empire geniuses in a short time. It seemed that the situation in the battlefield remained a stalemate, for nobody was willing to give up. But the truth was that the geniuses of the Tianzong dynasty could not maintain this for a long time. Everybody was aware of this fact. Even though Yang Zishuan could confront Ling Xueyu, he was barely making it. Ling Zuyuhad had yet to display his full power, yet he already held the advantage. Eventually, Yang Zishuan would be defeated. Su Ro was in the same situation. It was not easy for her to display Aquamarine Torrent, so she could not maintain herself for a long time either. But Jian Wushuang knew nothing about it. At this moment, his eyes were closed, and he completely engaged himself in his breakthrough. 4 sword essences could be seen slowly rising up around his body. Yang Zishuan and his other comrades were clear that Jian Wushuang had almost broken through. They thought the breakthrough was just in cultivation of spiritual power, which was simply from the profound gold core realm to the exceptional gold core realm. But in fact, the breakthrough Jian Wushuang was experiencing was not what they had thought. It was a breakthrough in sword essence. By now, Jian Wushuang activated the 4 sword essences that he already comprehended. Among the 4 sword essences, 3 were combined long ago, which were the sword essence of Gale, sword essence of Raging Fire, and sword essence of the Water Drop. The only one that he could not combine was the sword essence of Earth. The sword essence of Earth was the earliest and the finest one that Jian Wushuang comprehended among the 4 sword essences. However, Jian Wushuang was unable to combine it with the other 3 sword essences ever since he had comprehended it. But he received a chance to break through during the fight between him and Gu Yan a while ago. The chance could make the sword essence of Earth combine with the other 3 sword essences. At this moment, the sword essence of Earth and the other 3 sword essences converged. Within seconds, the 4 sword essences had completely merged. Thereafter, Jian Wushuang had fully merged and comprehended the 4 sword essences: the sword essence of Earth, the sword essence of Raging Fire, the sword essence of the Water Drop, and the sword essence of Gale. The 4 sword essences were perfectly combined. A combination of 4 sword essences. At the right moment, when the 4 sword essences combined together, a shock echoed throughout Jian Wushuang's body. In the past several months, his cultivation of spiritual power was not activated at all, neither had it been enhanced. But now, the power was suddenly and fiercely activated as Jian Wushuang completed his breakthrough. Originally, he was at the peak of the profound gold core realm, but now he directly achieved the exceptional gold core realm. The whole process happened naturally. Once the sword essence broke through, the cultivation of spiritual power broke through as well. After the breakthrough was over, Jian Wushuang suddenly opened his eyes, burning with rage. On the battlefield, the geniuses were still fiercely fighting. Su Ro's face had turned pale and won already, but she did not give up. She was exerting her utmost strength to manipulate Aquamarine Torrent and block Gu Yan and his comrades. Bailey Chun, Feng Yuqian, and Mu Yingying were the same. They had already suffered terrible injuries, but they were still risking their lives in resistance. Ha ha! The power of the torrent has been greatly weakened. This lady is about to surrender. Let's defeat the torrent together. Gu Yan laughed as he violently hacked the giant axe towards Su Ro. The giant axe could activate a huge thunderbolt, and now the strength landed directly on Aquamarine Torrent. In no time, the torrent retreated. Having spurted blood from her mouth, Su Ro's consciousness began to waver and her vision became blurry. However, she did not forget her mission. I can't let anybody get close to the third brother. Nobody is allowed to, she muttered. Wah! Su Ro spurted blood one more time. By then, her breath was barely perceptible. At the same time, the power for Aquamarine Torrent was greatly weakened. Su Ro struggled to hold up her head. She wanted to fight again, but the slight patting on her shoulder stopped her. She was shocked and naturally turned around. What she saw was Jian Wushuang, who was standing behind her with a grateful smile on his face. Seeing this, Su Ro was happy, and then she smiled as well. Wushuang, you finally achieved a breakthrough. Su Ro's voice was extremely weak. Soon after she uttered those words, she closed her eyes, and her limp body fell to the side. Jian Wushuang was stunned, and then he immediately stepped forward and held Su Ro in his arms. At the same time, he took out several healing elixirs and helped Su Ro swallow them down. Having swallowed the elixirs down, Su Ro's breathing became more stable. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang felt relieved. Soon after, Jian Wushuang looked around. His eyes were sweeping over the battlefields and the geniuses on them. He first fixed his eyes on Bailey Chun, Feng Yuqian, and Mu Yingying. The 3 just engaged in a fierce fight, and now all were grievously injured. Their breathing was weak, but they did not pass out like Su Ro. They still had slight consciousness. Having noticed Jian Wushuang's eyes, the 3 struggled to hold their heads up and looked at him. Their eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Seeing the 3, Jian Wushuang half closed his eyes, and then he gave Yang Zishuan a glance. The glance was enough for him to be stunned. There, flashing into Jian Wushuang's eyes, was Yang Zishuan lying in a giant hole in the field center, with blood spewing out of his mouth. On his side, there was an arm. That was a severed arm. A severed arm that was just cut off by someone. One glance was enough for Jian Wushuang to recognize that the severed arm was Yang Zishuan's. One of my second brother's arms was cut off. Seeing the broken arm, Jian Wushuang's body was shaking. Rumbling, his mind was wild with rage, as if there were hundreds of millions of thunderbolts roaring. Jian Wushuang's eyes were coldly fixed on the experts from the Cosmos Empire in the front. Moments later, a monstrous, murderous intent fiercely burst out from his body. The murderous intent formed a sturdy roar, and in no time it flew to the ninth heaven. All of you have to die. Chapter 204. All of you have to die. Chapter 204. All of you have to die. All of you have to die. The roar was so loud that it resounded throughout the entire Sky Valley, causing the faces of the top experts from the Cosmos Empire to suddenly change. After gently putting Su Ro down on the ground, Jian Wushuang got up. With a sound of chew, the triple kill sword was already in his hand, and then he walked toward the geniuses of the Cosmos Empire in front of him, step by step. Third brother, Yang Zishuan called. Jian Wushuang stopped and looked at Yang Zishuan. A smile appeared on Yang Zishuan's face, but it was rather miserable, and then he said, "Next, we will all rely on you." "Okay." Jian Wushuang nodded slowly, and then he continued to walk forward. Every step he took was very slow. After stepping on the ground, he stepped into the void. The geniuses of the Cosmos Empire were shocked by his movement. Void walk. Yin-Yang Void Realm. No, he hasn't reached the Yin-Yang Void Realm yet. He is just in the exceptional Gold Core Realm. Should a man of the primordial Gold Core Realm be able to have a void walk? The geniuses of the Cosmos Empire were astonished. However, Jian Wushuang raised his eyes and looked at these geniuses. The first person his eyes locked onto was Ling Shuiyu. "Is it you that chopped off my second brother's arm?" Jian Wushuang said in a cold voice devoid of emotion. "Yes, it was me. What do you want to do?" Ling Shuiyu raised his mouth slightly, as though he did not care about Jian Wushuang at all. He was proud and arrogant. Among the 12 dynasties participating in the easternmost hunting, only Meng Wuqian from the Angel Empire had the qualifications for Ling Shuiyu to care about him. As for others, he did not pay any attention to them. "Okay, it's you," Jian Wushuang said indifferently before he then stepped forward. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's figure suddenly appeared beside Ling Shuiyu within just a few moments. "You chopped off one of my second brother's arms, so it isn't too much to chop off your 2 arms to avenge him." Jian Wushuang's chilly voice sounded around Ling Shuiyu's ears. At this moment, Ling Shuiyu, who just had an evil smile on his face and was previously acting supercilious, suddenly widened his eyes. Lowering his head with difficulty, he discovered that a cold sword shadow had flashed through him, yet he had no idea when this happened. This sword shadow was extremely sharp, so as soon as it passed through him from both sides, his 2 arms were chopped off simultaneously. How could this be possible? Ling Shuiyu was momentarily dumbstruck. He could not believe what happened. Who was he? He was Ling Shuiyu. He was one of the 2 exceptional genius acknowledged by the public in this easternmost hunting, but both of his arms were chopped off by a nobody from a small empire. Too fast. This sword shadow was too fast. It was so fast that before he could react, his 2 arms had already been chopped off. Jian Wushuang then clenched his left fist and directly punched forward. Bang! This fist struck heavily at Ling Shuiyu's stomach. The power was so terrifying that it directly obliterated his dantian into powder. Puff! Lots of blood spilled from Ling Shuiyu's mouth, and his face instantly turned pale. My dantian! Ling Shuiyu roared in a low voice with great pain, while fresh blood constantly spilled from his mouth. However, Jian Wushuang's hands stretched out to Ling Shuiyu again. As his arms were chopped off, and his dantian was destroyed by Jian Wushuang, he had no ability to offer any resistance or even struggle. Thus Jian Wushuang picked him up by his throat. Then Jian Wushuang swung his arm, and Ling Shuiyu, just like a dead dog, was vigorously thrown onto the open space near Yang Zishuan. Ling Xiuyu's body fell onto the ground in front of Yang Zishuan, which caused the earth to shake upon impact. Second brother, it's up to you whether this guy should be cut into pieces or be dismembered. Jian Wushuang's cold voice sounded. At this moment, the whole battlefield was silent. Looking at Ling Xiuyu, who was thrown on the ground like a dead dog without any battle strength, Yang Zishuan took a deep breath and nodded at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang no longer paid any attention to Ling Xiuyu, and his eyes turned to the 14 other geniuses of the Cosmos Empire. These 14 geniuses included Gu Yan and Zhang Kong, two of the top 10 peak experts on the standings. But at this moment, these 14 geniuses looked at Jian Wushuang as though they were staring at a demon they had never seen before. In their eyes, Ling Xiuyu was at the level of monsters. However, he was easily destroyed by this guy in front of them in no time. How powerful was his strength? The Cosmos Empire is one of the 2 large empires among the 12 northwestern dynasties. Jian Wushuang looked at the 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire coldly. I wonder what kind of scene that would be if the geniuses of your Cosmos Empire, who participated in this easternmost hunting, were all to die in Sky Valley. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and began to wave the triple kill sword in his hand. Idealistic form, the first move of the selfless sword technique. Although it was the same idealistic form, after Jian Wushuang combined the 4 sword essences with this move, its power was much stronger. Chiyu, a cold and bright sword light, directly swept out momentarily. Where this sword light traveled, there was silence. It seemed as though the time of the universe stopped at this moment. The moment these 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire saw the sword light, their faces changed greatly, and they tried to escape from the sweeping of this sword move, but before long they found their speed was too slow. Compared with the cold and shining sword move, they were vastly slower. They were directly pierced through by the sword light before they had the chance to lift up the weapons to resist. Chi, 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 chi. The sound of the sword piercing into bodies rang one by one, and altogether there were 14. The 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire still stood there, but they were at a loss, with eyes full of horror and despair. Then, pung, 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 pung. 14 bodies simultaneously fell onto the ground powerlessly. 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire, who could be regarded as the top talents by the public, had been killed with one sword move. Quiet. The silence was akin to death in the earth and heavens. Even Jian Wushuang's teammates, including Bailey Chen, Feng Yuqian, and Mu Yingying, who still had consciousness, were greatly shocked by what had happened in front of them. As for Yang Zishuan, his expression was still extremely indifferent. After Jian Wushuang killed all 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire, he did not stop his actions, and his cold eyes turned to a forest not far from him. After watching us for such a long time, it's time to reveal yourselves. As soon as he finished uttering those words, Jian Wushuang lifted his arm and hacked his sword toward the forest. With the flash of the sword light, tens of huge trees fell forthwith onto the ground, and then figures appeared one by one. With a scarlet-robed youth as their head, these figures' breaths were uncommon. However, no matter whether it was the scarlet-robed youth or the others, they all looked at Jian Wushuang with great fear. Immortals killing empire. Seeing these figures, Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. The geniuses of the Cosmos Empire have all died, and I don't mind erasing your immortals killing empire from this battle for points. Chapter 205, Invincibility. Chapter 205, Invincibility. Jian Wushuang said in a cold voice. Upon hearing this, the group of geniuses from the Immortals Killing Empire, who had hidden in the dark, became awfully frightened. His words struck terror and shock into their hearts. They had never thought that they would be afraid of a genius from a small empire to such an extent. However, they had reasons to be terrified. After all, having arrived here early and then hiding in the dark, they had witnessed what just happened. They saw Jian Wushuang cut off Ling Shuiyu's 2 arms with a single stroke. They also witnessed Jian Wushuang strike a blow that killed 14 top geniuses of the Cosmos Empire, without giving his opponents the opportunity to fight back. The geniuses of the Cosmos Empire were as strong as those of the Immortals-killing Empire. Since he could kill the former with only 1 stroke, Jian Wushuang could definitely kill the latter. They now regretted passing by this place. The scarlet-robed youth, who led the other geniuses of the Immortals-killing Empire, suddenly spoke. The youth carried a blood-red saber on his back, with a faint killing intent between his eyebrows and a roaring aura around his body. The youth was called Meng Wuqian. He and Ling Shuiyu were known as the 2 exceptional geniuses in the easternmost hunting. Being ranked number 1 in the standings, he was stronger than Ling Shuiyu. We're just passing through here. There's no conflict between our Immortals-killing Empire and your team, so you don't have to kill all of us, right? Meng Wuqian stuck out his tongue to lick his lips, staring at Jian Wushuang. He put nothing in his eyes. He was number 1 on the standings of easternmost hunting. None of the geniuses was his match in the 12 northwestern dynasties. At this moment, Jian Wushuang, who was standing in front of him, did not even move, yet he made him feel an unprecedented pressure with his cold stare. The pressure was even greater than what Meng Wuqian had felt when facing an expert at the peak of the Yin Void realm. Jian Wushuang squinted at Meng Wuqian, but immediately nodded. You're right. I don't have to kill all of you, so all of you give me your armlets, and I'll let you go. Give our armlets? The expressions of the geniuses of the Immortals-killing Empire suddenly changed. Armlets represented points. The aim of this battle in Sky Valley was to earn points. Now, all of them would give their points to Jian Wushuang. The geniuses of the Immortals-killing Empire were somewhat reluctant, but they acquiesced with a tight smile when thinking about how Jian Wushuang had killed 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire with 1 stroke. Jian Wushuang. Meng Wuqian looked serious. He had seen the standings before, so he knew Jian Wushuang. I admit that you're very strong, at least much stronger than me, Meng Wuqian said in a low voice. But it's not my style to give away my points without a fight. Anyway, I will be convinced as long as you fight with me and defeat me. Meng Wuqian then ignored the surprised expressions of the onlookers from the Immortals-killing Empire. He drew out his blood-red saber, and a powerful aura gushed out from his body. Let's fight! With a loud cry, Meng Wuqian directly lifted up his saber, mixed with raging fire, gale, and destruction essence realm. The last realm seemed to be able to destroy everything. Meng Wuqian's spiritual power reached its peak at this moment. He launched an attack with his saber. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the air ahead of him was cleft in 2. The heaven and the earth shook, and everything shivered. A huge flash of the saber's shadow instantly swept out. The stroke seemed to tear heaven and earth. The onlookers of the Immortals-killing Empire looked frightened when seeing the saber shadow. Meanwhile, they felt fortunate that they were not the target. Otherwise, they would have died under the streak of the blade light. However, faced with the terrifying and dazzling blade light, Jian Wushuang was still calm. While slowly raising his head and staring at the streak of light coming toward him, Jian Wushuang casually struck a blow with his sword. The casual stroke did not display any swordsmanship, but there was a streak of sword light coming out. The streak of sword light was a perfect combination of 4 kinds of sword essence: earth, raging fire, water drop, and gale. Schwa, with a sudden faint sound, in the brilliant streak of blade light appeared a crack. It was a cold streak of the sword shadow. The streak of the sword shadow completely penetrated the blade light as soon as the two of them collided. Then the sword shadow continued to move forward. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at Meng Wuqian. Chu, the cold sword shadow, was suspended half of a centimeter away from Meng Wuqian. Jian Wushuang lifted the long sword up and pressed the sword shadow against Meng Wuqian. Once he used more strength, the sword edge could easily pierce through Meng Wuqian's throat. Grunt. Meng Wuqian swallowed his saliva with a blank look. The other geniuses of the Immortals Killing Empire sucked in a breath of cold air momentarily. With a stroke, Jian Wushuang had cut off Ling Shuiyu's 2 arms and killed 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire. Now, it was also another single stroke, an ordinary stroke that Meng Wuqian had executed his strongest unique move to fight against with full power. The stroke obviously displayed no swordsmanship. But still, he was outclassed and defeated by Jian Wushuang with that stroke. There was a huge gap between them. You lost. Jian Wushuang coldly stared at Meng Wuqian. He did not want to kill Meng Wuqian directly because he thought Meng Wuqian had a good character. Meng Wuqian seemed to be somewhat arrogant, but he hid his conceit and was not as supercilious as Ling Shuiyu. I lost, Meng Wuqian said with a rueful smile. Then he gave an interspatial ring to Jian Wushuang. All the armlets I've got are in this interspatial ring. Meng Wuqian spoke. After he accepted it, Jian Wushuang glanced at the other geniuses of the Immortals Killing Empire. All of them were scared and took out all their armlets without hesitation. Here are all of our armlets. Here you are. These geniuses were still quite frightened. Jian Wushuang nodded and said, "Leave all your armlets, and then you can go." All the geniuses of the Immortals Killing Empire, including Meng Wuqian, had to leave helplessly despite their reluctance. Chapter 206, Real Exceptional Genius. Chapter 206, Real Exceptional Genius. In the void over Sky Valley, the monarchs of the 12 dynasties, as well as experts of old sects, kept an eye on what happened below. When they saw the geniuses of the Cosmos Empire engage in a fierce fight with the team of the Tianzong dynasty, they could not help but sigh. The Tianzong dynasty is over. All of them thought it would happen. But just a moment later, everyone above the void became as silent as the grave. It was hard for them to believe what they had seen. Just now, they saw Jian Wushuang suddenly erupt with great power, cut off Ling Shuiyu's 2 arms, and immediately launch another attack with a brilliant strike. 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire were killed by that strike. Shock. Everybody was shocked. How could it be possible? Why is Jian Wushuang so strong? Oh, God, he killed 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire with only 1 strike. The monarchs from the 12 dynasties could not help but widen their eyes. The monarch of the Cosmos Empire, a weathered elder, had just shown a smiling face, but now it flushed red with anger. Bang! The elder stood up while patting the chair into dust. He looked extremely angry as killing intent roared around his body. The other monarchs were a little surprised, but they could understand him. The Cosmos Empire was one of the 2 large empires, but now all the geniuses from it had been killed by the same person in this point grab battle. It was impossible for their monarch not to be furious. The experts of old sects gathered with a complex look, especially Mo Lingtian. Mo Lingtian had thought highly of Ling Shuiyu and judged that he was qualified to be a disciple of his wilderness sword sect. As for Jian Wushuang, Mo Lingtian had not put him in his eyes. However, Mo Lingtian was stunned at this moment. It's impossible. Even Mo Lingtian could hardly believe that what happened below was real. The kid has surpassed himself, but even if he broke through, how could he improve his strength to such an extent? Unimaginable. Mo Lingtian could not understand. As for his previous strength, Jian Wushuang could only reach top 10 in the standings, but now his strength had improved to such an inconceivable level where he could kill 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire with only one strike. This kid, how did he achieve it? Mo Lingtian roared in mind. He was oblivious to Jian Wushuang's true strength. Jian Wushuang had improved his strength from the peak of the profound cold core realm to the exceptional gold core realm. It looked like an ordinary breakthrough, but Jian Wushuang had been cultivating heavenly creation skill, the heaven-defying cultivation method. It was a supreme gold core that he had. He had been at the peak of the profound cold core realm. As a result, his eruption of power could only be considered close to half-step yin-yang, even if it was a supreme gold core that triggered the outburst. But now he had reached the exceptional gold core realm. Thus his power could exceed the gold core realm and reach the initial Yin Void realm with the help of the supreme gold core. He could outclass any genius of the 12 dynasties with the strength. More importantly, he made a major breakthrough in the enlightenment of his sword essence. For kinds of sword essence combined, the more closely 4 kinds of sword essence combined, the greater his strength would improve. When he had combined 2 kinds of sword essence, Jian Wushuang improved his complete strength to a normal degree. After he had combined 3 kinds of sword essence, his complete strength was at least 5 times greater than before. Now, after combining 4 kinds of sword essence, Jian Wushuang was quite clear that his complete strength was at least 10 times greater than before. Moreover, the combination of them not only helped to improve his swordsmanship, but also brought him a kind of new power. With all of them coupled together, Jian Wushuang became extremely strong after the breakthrough. Subsequently, he could cut off Ling Shuiyu's 2 arms and could kill 14 geniuses of the Cosmos Empire with one strike. I thought Meng Wuqian and Ling Shuiyu were exceptional geniuses and didn't expect that Jian Wushuang was much stronger than the 2 of them. They're not on the same level. Such a peerless genius. Experts of old sects stared at Jian Wushuang with a feverish look. They were different from Mo Lingtian, who followed his sect master's order to come here and just pretended that he would choose several disciples for the wilderness sword sect. The experts of the other old sects came for these geniuses. If they were satisfied with someone, they would offer them an opportunity to join their old sections. Now they knew that Jian Wushuang was the most outstanding genius in this easternmost hunting, as he had proved himself through his strength and talent. He was a much more terrifying monster than Meng Wuqian or Ling Shuiyu. The experts of old sects naturally wanted him. Mr. Ling Tian, I remember that you said that you were not interested in Jian Wushuang, and that we could accept him as a disciple if we wanted him, an expert of an old sect said while looking toward Mo Lingtian. Haha, mister. Lingtian comes from the Wilderness Sword Sect, one of top 8 sects in Nanyang. He is demanding. How could he be satisfied with such a kid? Right, mister. Lingtian might not be satisfied with him, but we don't mind accepting Jian Wushuang as our disciple. Mr. Lingtian, you will keep your promise, right? The experts of the other old sects watched them with interest. All of them eagerly wanted Jian Wushuang to be their disciple. Therefore, their biggest competitor was the Wilderness Sword Sect. The Wilderness Sword Sect was one of the top 8 sects, so it was more powerful than the other sections. Moreover, the Wilderness Sword Sect was famous for sword principle, and Jian Wushuang was also a warrior of sword principle. Therefore, the conditions which the Wilderness Sword Sect could offer were much better than that of the other old sections. If they gave Jian Wushuang an option, he might choose the Wilderness Sword Sect without hesitation. The experts of the other old sects reminded Mo Lingtian of what he said because they wanted him to give up on Jian Wushuang. Mo Lingtian understood their intentions and immediately snorted. "Humph, I'll keep my promise. Jian Wushuang might be slightly talented, but our Wilderness Sword Sect is full of geniuses who are more excellent than him. It's fine without him. Since you want him, I'll quit. It's not a big deal." Mo Lingtian seemed unconcerned, but he was somewhat upset about it. After all, Jian Wushuang showed his talent. What an exceptional genius he was. Chapter 207, Catastrophe. Chapter 207, Catastrophe. The experts of the other old sects smiled after hearing Mo Lingtian's words. They now needed to consider what price they would pay to attract Jian Wushuang. Except for the Wilderness Sword Sect, which would not step in, the other old sects must be unwilling to give up. There was no doubt that the one who offered the best condition could get Jian Wushuang. The experts of the other old sects started to ponder. Another event was occurring in Sky Valley. Jian Wushuang bumped into the geniuses of the Immortals Killing Empire after killing the geniuses of the Cosmos Empire. It caused the monarch of the Immortals Killing Empire to become a bit anxious. He finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Jian Wushuang did not kill Ling Xueyu. Then all of the monarch's face turned somewhat stiff because of what happened next. All the geniuses of the Immortals Killing Empire handed over their armlets and left. From now on, the team from Tianzong Dynasty possessed the armlets of all the geniuses of the two large empires. It's interesting now. The small team of the Tianzong Dynasty has all the armlets of the two large empires. Armlets represent points. Thus, that team has most of the points for now. If there's no accident, those from the Tianzong Dynasty will rank from number 1 to 6th in the new standings after this battle is over. A small empire will take top 6 in the standings. All the monarchs were overwhelmed. The Tianzong Dynasty is really a small empire. This time the small team of the Tianzong Dynasty performed incredibly well. As for the previous easternmost hunting, the top 10 normally came from the two large empires in the revised rankings after the point grab battle. Even some powerful middle-sized empires, like the Z Dynasty, could hardly reach top 10 in the standings, let alone those small empires. However, this time all of those in the top 6 would come from the Tianzong Dynasty. What did it mean? A miracle. As a small empire, the Tianzong Dynasty had really created a miracle in this easternmost hunting. It was a miracle that no other small empires had ever achieved before. Di Shi, the monarch of the Tianzong Dynasty, momentarily had a dazzling smile on his face. Good. Very good. Good boy, I'm proud of you. As a monarch, Di Shi laughed hysterically like a fool. His laughter aroused the other monarchs' attention. They enviously looked at Di Shi. What's that? A monarch suddenly exclaimed. Upon hearing this, the other monarchs looked down, and their expressions suddenly changed. What happened? Who are they? All the monarchs of the 12 dynasties became furious. Di Shi felt shocked when he saw several black figures rush toward where Jian Wushuang stood at an amazing speed in Sky Valley. The black robe, purple mask, blood feather tower. Boom! Di Shi immediately stood up as a terrifying aura gushed out of him. As the first one of Tianzong Dynasty to be on the Heavenly Dragon list, Di Shi himself was very strong. Bastard! How dare you mess up the easternmost hunting? How did they get in? The experts guarding Sky Valley haven't blocked them. Every monarch's expression turned cold. It was unexpected that a group of experts directly intruded into Sky Valley when the point grab battle had not ended yet. Boom! With a terrifying aura rising up, the experts of the 12 dynasties were ready to kill the intruders in black. However, at this moment, whoosh, a figure showed up like a ghost and immediately stood in front of them. The experts held their stances and looked at the figure. The man wore a gray robe. The 12 dynasties and the experts from Old Sex. Nice to meet you all. I'm Grayrobe from Bloodfeather Tower. The man said kindly, Bloodfeather Tower. All the monarchs of the 12 dynasties frowned slightly. Some of them had heard about Bloodfeather Tower, but most of them knew nothing about it. Bloodfeather Tower was just a small force in the Tianzong dynasty. It did not deserve to be mentioned in the 12 northwestern dynasties. Therefore, the experts of Old Sex had never heard about it. You ordered them to intrude into Sky Valley? The monarch of the immortals-killing empire, a frivolous young man, stared at Grayrobe as if he was watching a small ant. Yes, Grayrobe nodded. Grayrobe, your Bloodfeather Tower must have some guts. In order to kill Jian Wushuang, you dare to mess up the easternmost hunting? She spoke with a cold look. Our Bloodfeather Tower always has the guts. Grayrobe smiled and then looked around. Everyone, please wait here until we finish our task. Then easternmost hunting can continue. Hee, you should be clear about who you're talking to before you talk. The monarch of the immortals-killing empire slowly stood up, with his killing intent fixed on Grayrobe. Grayrobe immediately felt a shiver. You must be the monarch of the immortals-killing empire. You are really powerful. Grayrobe glanced at the monarch of immortals-killing empire in terror, and then he smiled again. Our Bloodfeather Tower is bold indeed, but we're not impetuous. Without any special reason, how dare we come to kill people in the easternmost hunting? Then Grayrobe turned over his hand and took out a light golden token. A character, holy, on the token attracted their attention. As soon as they saw the token, the monarchs of the 12 dynasties, as well as experts of Old Sex, were terribly shocked. Obviously, they recognized the token and knew what it represented. Now, you should understand why I dare say this, Grayrobe said with a faint smile. Then he put it away and looked at the monarch of the immortals-killing empire. With cold eyes, the monarch of the immortals-killing empire gradually calmed his roaring killing intent. After giving Grayrobe a meaningful glance, he finally sat down again. The other monarchs looked at each other and then sat down one after another. The experts of the Old Sex were clearer about the token than the monarchs of the 12 dynasties. They knew that the token represented a kind of extremely horrific power. They could only shake their heads with resignation. Chapter 208, Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir. Chapter 208, Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir. Not long ago, these old sect powerhouses were very interested in the extraordinary, exceptional genius Jian Wushuang. Even experts of several old sects had pondered over what they could offer to attract him. But now, after seeing Grayrobe, and especially the token, they all gave up. They knew what his token implied. The people being preyed on by this horror force seldom escaped from the entire Nanyang continent. That guy can be proud of it. He should have the qualification to be preyed on by the horror force. Mo Ling Tian sneered at this moment. Experts of the 12 dynasties and other old sects thereupon felt pity for Jian Wushuang and his adversity right now, but only Mo Ling Tian was taking pleasure in his misfortune. Nearby people shook their heads with resignation. At this moment, all of them were sympathetically looking at Jian Wushuang, who stood in the limelight. Grayrobe saw all of the experts' expressions, as was expected. He sneered and then looked at Dishi. "Your Majesty, what do you think? If you want the Tianzong dynasty to be history, you can set about rescuing that guy." Hearing that, Dishi was temperamental. In his eyes, there was a little craziness and also a little rationality, but the rationality prevailed in the end. Dishi clenched his hands tightly, letting out a sigh, and then he collapsed onto the chair and closed his eyes without saying anything. "Humph, it's great you know your place." Grayrobe sneered at Dishi, and then traveled down to Sky Valley. Everyone was staring at Sky Valley. They had noticed that those purple mass killers from Blood Feather Tower were nearing closer and closer to Jian Wushuang. In Sky Valley, everything had calmed down. Only the corpses of the geniuses from the Cosmos Empire were messily lying around. As for Ling Shuiyu, whose arms were cut off and Dantian was destroyed, Yang Zixuan did not torture him any longer but directly killed him. Although the Tianzong dynasty made a clean sweep in this fierce battle, they also suffered great losses. Except for Jian Wushuang, Bailey Chen, Feng Yuqian, and Mu Yingying, who were mortally wounded. Their faces were currently as pale as death. Su Ro was more severely wounded. Even if she took several high-grade healing elixirs, she would only be able to recover consciousness. What they received were just physical wounds. Though these were severe, they could recover. While Yang Zixuan, second brother, Jian Wushuang, stood in front of Yang Zixuan, looking at his broken arm with self-accusation and guilt in his eyes. If I could have completed the breakthrough earlier, Jian Wushuang thought secretly. Only the left arm was cut off. I'll be fine. Yang Zixuan took a look at Jian Wushuang and comforted him. However, Jian Wushuang was silent. The broken arm is not beyond recovery. Mu Yingying's voice sounded. Jian Wushuang and Yang Zixuan looked at Mu Yingying immediately. Mu Yingying said, "You know that I come from Mu clan, which is very good at alchemy. Once, I had heard from one of the clan's elders that there is a kind of organogenesis elixir named Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir." Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He didn't know much about elixirs, so he had never heard of the Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir. This kind of elixir can regenerate broken limbs, thus it also can absolutely recover Yang Zixuan's broken arm. But the level of Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir is quite high. Even people in the Mu clan merely hear about it, but no one can refine it. Mu Yingying said, "Purple Fire Body Shaping Elixir. I've heard of it as well." A soft voice sounded. It was from the nearby Su Ro, who was still lying on the ground weakly. As long as the elixir is obtained, it would be able to recover Lao Heir's arm. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to refine this kind of elixir. Few people can refine it on the whole Nanyang continent, so it is hard to obtain it. It is hard to obtain, but that's provided it does exist, Jian Wushuang said. Yang Zixuan also forced a smile. All right, let's just move on. All the geniuses of the Cosmos Empire are killed, and the armlets from the geniuses of the Immortals Killing Empire have been taken by me. Let us 6 divide these armlets equally, Jian Wushuang said suddenly. Hearing that, the 5 people nearby all smiled. Ha ha, all the armlets from the geniuses of 2 large empires. How many points will this be? There's a plethora of points. If we divide them equally without exception, we will take up the top 6 on the new standings after point grab battle. This time, our Tianzong dynasty will be famous in the 12 northwestern dynasties. Yang Zixuan, Su Ro, Bailey Chen, Feng Yuqian, and Mu Yingying were all surprised. Then the 5 people's eyes simultaneously focused on Jian Wushuang. They all knew that it was because of Jian Wushuang that they could reach this step, because of his world-shaking strength after he broke through. That opportunely verified what Jian Wushuang said before he had broken through. After the breakthrough, I will lead you to sweep over the northwestern dynasties and create a new legend. A smile appeared on Jian Wushuang's face. Sweep over the northwestern dynasties. Create a new legend. He did it. However, at this point, Jian Wushuang suddenly felt alarmed, and the hairs on his skin erected. This feeling, Jian Wushuang's eyes shrunk slightly. It was not the first time that he had experienced this feeling. Bloodfeather Tower, Jian Wushuang yelled, and then a killing intent immediately erupted from him. Chu, a shadow and cold blood-red blade appeared behind Jian Wushuang. The blood-red blade directly stabbed at Jian Wushuang in such an unusual and odd way. It instantly pierced Jian Wushuang. But no blood flowed out after his body was pierced, and there wasn't even the sound of a blade piercing him. Residual shadow. The fighting purple mask killer felt frightened, and soon he saw Jian Wushuang appear beside him. Chu, Jian Wushuang was filled with such murderous intent that he directly stabbed at that purple-masked killer with rage. The purple-masked killer raised his blood-red blade in order to fend off the attack. Bang! The purple-masked killer was knocked back immediately because of a fierce explosion and then powerfully struck a tree, causing it to become seriously cracked. At the moment when this purple-masked killer was repulsed, whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several ghostly figures appeared around Jian Wushuang in succession, with innumerable eyes filled with killing intent gazing at him. Glancing around, Jian Wushuang saw that there should be 11 people as well as the person beaten back by him earlier. Thus it totaled to 12 killers. What's more, all of these killers were purple masks with powerful auras exuding from them. Chapter 209, A Battle Rose Again. Chapter 209, A Battle Rose Again. Glancing at these 12 purple-masked killers surrounding him, Jian Wushuang's face was cold. The breaths of the 12 purple-masked killers were extremely violent. Among them, 8 had reached the exceptional Yin Void realm, and the other 4 had reached the peak of the Yin Void realm. 8 in the exceptional Yin Void realm, and 4 at the peak of the Yin Void realm. Bloodfeather Tower really thinks highly of me. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Jian Wushuang, I didn't expect that your strength would improve again in such a short period. The purple-masked killer, who had been beaten back and struck a tree, currently walked again towards Jian Wushuang and stared at him with cold eyes. Your ghost tiger? Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. He once met Ghost Tiger in the Nine Emperors sect and knew that it was him who destroyed his father's Dantian. He said at that time that he must kill him if he saw him again. Now it was that time. How dare Bloodfeather Tower send killers to Sky Valley to kill me? Jian Wushuang was a little bit astonished and looked up to the vast upper void. Not surprisingly, many experts from the 12 dynasties must have gathered in the upper void and kept watch over Sky Valley. Therefore, they should stop the intruding killers of Bloodfeather Tower. However, they easily approached him and had already gone through a round of slaughter, yet the 12 dynasties didn't react at all. It made Jian Wushuang feel astonished. Are you wondering why no one has come to help you? Ghost Tiger sensed what Jian Wushuang was thinking and smiled coldly. Stop thinking. We were fully prepared in order to kill you during the easternmost hunting. This time, you must die and no one can help you. Kill me? You? Jian Wushuang looked indifferent. Isn't it enough? Ghost Tiger laughed, then he winked at the purple-masked killer beside him. Action! Ghost Tiger took the lead, and the reopening 11 purple mask killers also burst forward and rushed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was stony-faced, having glanced at Yang Zishuan and the other 4 people. He took out his triple kill sword and said, "Take care of yourselves." Having said that, Jian Wushuang directly met the killers head-on. Third brother. Yang Zishuan, Su Ro, and Bailey Chen looked at Jian Wushuang with concern, but they were helpless to do anything. After all, they had just gone through a fierce fight and had been seriously wounded. They had little battle strength now, and thus they were of little help to him. Go to hell. Ghost Tiger and the Purple Mask Killer at the peak of the Yin Void realm besides him took the lead, rushing toward Jian Wushuang. 2 dazzling black lights burst out simultaneously. One rushed directly to Jian Wushuang's throat, and another one went to his heart. "Get out of my way!" Jian Wushuang thundered, and his triple kill sword burst out suddenly, with 4 sword essences combined together. He precisely played idealistic form of the selfless sword technique. A cold flowing light swept over overwhelmingly, and in the turn of a hand, the flowing light crashed with those 2 black lights. Once its terrible power exploded, those 2 black lights dimmed. Even Ghost Tiger and the Purple Mask Killer of Yin Void Champion were fought off instantly. One movement simultaneously forced back 2 at the peak of the Yin Void realm. The attack of the left 10 Purple Mask Killers fell at the same time. Jian Wushuang's face changed a little, but the next moment his figure turned into a phantom, and he brandished the triple kill sword as quickly as ghosts. Clang, 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 clang. 10 running crashes sounded. Jian Wushuang's body shook heavily, and the ground under his feet cracked. He took several steps back, with each step falling on the ground heavily and loudly. Coming to a stop, Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked at the Purple Masked Killers with a grin. "You're too slow." The Purple Masked Killers narrowed their eyes. This guy is strong in offense, and he forced back 2 at the peak of the Yin Void realm with 1 movement. Unexpectedly, he's also strong in defense as he managed to reflect back that attack of ours. He might be able to resist 1 attack, but maybe not the second one. Come on, kill him. The Purple Masked Killers unhesitantly took action again. However, Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and brandished his triple kill sword freely. Bang, bang, bang. The running crashes rose again. The 12 Purple Mask Killers had tried their best, and each one played their trump card. However, what about Jian Wushuang? His overall strength had improved a lot after he combined 4 sword essences, and his cultivation of spiritual power had reached the exceptional gold core realm. Now, his battle strength was much higher than a normal expert at the peak of the Yin Void realm. More importantly, he had comprehended 4 sword essences, which were the earth, raging fire, water drop, and gale. It made Jian Wushuang be skillful in every aspect, no matter an attacking or defending or a battle of attrition. He was good at all these. It could be said that he had no weakness. The 12 Purple Masked Killers circled him, but he moved freely among them like a fish. With his skillful swordsmanship, he defended against all of their attacks easily. Even he didn't show any panic. Seeing what happened under the void, the experts of the 12 dynasties and the old sects were shocked, and their expressions were humorous. 8 in the exceptional Yin Void realm, and 4 at the peak of the Yin Void realm. Such a powerful team jointly attacked him, but could do nothing. How could he be this strong? The guy is really in the primordial gold core realm. How could one in the primordial gold core realm be so strong? All of them were perplexed. The gap between the primordial gold core realm and Yin Yang Void realm was huge. Some super geniuses might kill normal warriors in the initial Void realm or profound Void realm easily, which could be considered normal. It's nothing to rank skip and challenge someone if one was a super genius with a high comprehension of sword essence. But to skip this much was incredibly unusual. If a genius of the initial Void realm killed one in the initial or profound Void realm, they could understand it. If he could kill one in the exceptional Void realm, then that would be amazing. Such a genius was rare in Nanyang continent, let alone in the 12 northwestern dynasties. But now, Jian Wushuang, one in the primordial gold core realm, could fight against 8 in the exceptional Void realm and 4 at the peak of the Void realm simultaneously, and had even kept fighting until now. What did that mean? It's impossible. An expert from one old sect couldn't help but say. At the same time, when the experts were talking about it, Grayrobe's face fell. "What are you doing, you idiots?" Grayrobe cursed and snorted. His snorting sound resounded throughout the whole Sky Valley. Chapter 210, What an Extraordinary Surprise. Chapter 210, What an Extraordinary Surprise. Hurry up! Kill him! Grayrobe's shouting was loud and reverberated throughout Sky Valley. The 12 purple mask killers who were fighting with Jian Wushuang heard it. Quit dawdling and attack in full force. Also, swallow the purple coagulation elixir immediately if you have one, Ghost Tiger shouted lowly. Then he turned over his hand and promptly swallowed a purple elixir. Among the other 11 killers, there were 7 who momentarily swallowed their elixirs. 8 people swallowed elixirs in total, and their strength rapidly increased. Jian Wushuang was stunned at this scene. Purple coagulation elixir. Jian Wushuang knew the purple coagulation elixir. It was usually used by experts of the Void realm, and it could improve one's strength in seconds with almost no side effect, for the improvement was limited. Once these 8 people swallowed the purple coagulation elixirs, their strength improved a lot. It seems that I should go all out, Jian Wushuang thought with the corners of his mouth quirked up. All right, I don't want it to last long. After I combined 4 sword essences, my strength was greatly improved. What's more, I gained a special power. I had never known this special power before. But now, let me test it with these purple-masked killers of Blood Feather Tower. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and at this moment he just glided out. Kill! All the 12 purple-masked killers moved again. The swallowed purple coagulation elixir generated for them a great enhancement in their breath. Ghost Tiger stabbed his blood-colored red blade toward Jian Wushuang. At the same time, Jian Wushuang also waved his long sword. The third move of Selfless Sword technique, Sky Isolating Form. This was the same Sky Isolating Form, but its power was totally different because of the combination of 4 sword essences. A golden flowing light crossed the sky like a shooting star. In a second, it appeared in front of Ghost Tiger. The golden, flowing light with great strength was immersed with a special power, and instantly its light became much more dazzling. It crashed with the blood-red blade. Bang! The blood-red blade in Ghost Tiger's hands became crooked, and the bones of his one arm, which was holding the blood-red blade, were cracked. How? Ghost Tiger's eyes were full of astonishment, but the golden flowing light turned slightly and then pierced through his head. Puff! After the golden flowing light shoot through Ghost Tiger's head, the power didn't weaken but rushed directly to another purple mask killer at the peak of the Void realm. What's the hell? The purple masked killer had no time to react, but rashly resisted it with his blood-red blade. Clang! Puff! The strong and attacking golden flowing light struck the blood-red blade away overwhelmingly, then shot through the purple mask killer's head. Jesus! It's so strong. The other purple mask killers who rushed to Jian Wushuang from around were shocked, and their faces changed a lot. One movement killed 2 purple mask killers in succession. Moreover, they were at the peak of the Yin Void realm and had swallowed purple coagulation elixirs. Before they recovered from their shock, Jian Wushuang appeared in front of 3 purple mask killers with a simple turn. The dazzling and golden flowing light flew out again. The 3 purple-masked killers opened their eyes and tried to stop it desperately. But chi, the golden, flowing light swept over their necks and instantly cut off their heads. Jian Wushuang then moved again. Run! The purple-masked killers of Blood Feather Tower tried to flee away at once. They feared so much. The strength displayed by Jian Wushuang was so horrible, and they couldn't help but feel frightened. They had already forgotten to kill Jian Wushuang. Instead, they were hoping not to be killed by him. Though they fled to the east and the west, Jian Wushuang wouldn't let them off. All of the people belonging to Blood Feather Tower have to die. The killing intent in Jian Wushuang's eyes was strong, and after killing 5 purple mask killers in succession, he moved again along with the golden, flowing light. Chi, one by one. These purple-masked killers, who approached Jian Wushuang quite directly just now, had no time to flee away from his long sword in such a short time, because they were so close to him. Just in an instant, the 12 purple-masked killers were all killed. No one was escaped. After killing them, Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked toward the upper void. For Grayrobe's voice coming from the upper void, he heard it. Therefore, he rose in the air and flew directly to the upper void. The upper void was in dead silence at this moment, though there were a great number of experts gathered there. All of them were shocked by what happened under the void. The special power contained in his swordsmanship is the origin. The words exploded in the upper void. Origin, sword way source energy. He comprehended the sword way source. Unbelievable. How is it possible? All the people who were sitting in their chairs stood up. All of their eyes were full of astonishment. The monarchs of the 12 dynasties and experts of the old sects were stunned. Even Mo Lingtian, who had always looked down upon Jian Wushuang before, was shocked as well. Origin? It was origin. Mo Lingtian was also totally shocked. Origin, above the essence realm of heaven and earth. For a warrior, when he cultivated, improving the spiritual power was only one aspect. The most important aspect was the comprehension of the essence of heaven and earth cultivation. The comprehension was firstly reflected in essence realm. After thoroughly understanding, they would combine them together. That was the end of comprehension of essence realm, but not the comprehension of the heaven and earth. Above the essence realm was the origin. Those powerful original sword techniques, such as formless swordsmanship. It was recognized as the most outstanding, finest swordsmanship in the Tianzong dynasty, because it was an original sword technique that required comprehension of the origin. The selfless sword technique was also an original sword technique, which required comprehension of the origin. The origin was much more powerful than the essence realm. It was because it was so strong that it was abstruse and difficult to comprehend. It was easy for warriors to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth. In general, warriors of primordial gold core realm could try to comprehend essence realm, and some geniuses' comprehension of essence realm of heaven and earth would reach a high level when they were in level of transforming sea. But the origin, a warrior in the yin-yang void realm, even at the peak of yang void realm, who could comprehend it was rare. Chapter 211. Give me an explanation. Chapter 211. Give me an explanation. The origin is very enigmatic. There were many powerhouses with Nanyang Void Realm at the present, including a lot of powerhouses who reached the top of Yang Void Realm. But none of them comprehended the origin. Now, Jian Wushuang, a guy just in the primordial golden pill realm, comprehended the origin. The people stared at the figure below with fear, who was slowly flying towards them. Despite seeing Jian Wushuang walking on air, they didn't feel surprised. After all, Jian Wushuang was able to comprehend the origin. Even though he was on the level of Golden Pill, it is believable for him to be able to fly due to it. The next moment, he had already appeared in front of the top experts. Jian Wushuang, with an indifferent expression, floated on the void, staring at the experts from the 12 Northwestern dynasties and the old sections. Your Excellencies of 12 Northwestern dynasties, I demand an explanation. Jian Wushuang said in an extremely cold voice with fierce fire burning in his eyes. The easternmost hunting was held in Sky Valley by the 12 Northwestern dynasties, so Jian Wushuang knew that experts of the 12 Northwestern dynasties must watch it in the void nearby. At this time, killers of the Blood Feather Tower intruded on the battlefield of the easternmost hunting to assassinate him, yet the experts of the 12 Northwestern dynasties did not react to this intrusion. How could Jian Wushuang not be angry? The 12 Northwestern dynasties held the easternmost hunting in this way. They really could not protect the geniuses attending the easternmost hunting and let them be killed by others freely. After hearing what Jian Wushuang said, the monarchs of the 12 Northwestern dynasties looked embarrassed. They even didn't dare to look straight at Jian Wushuang because they clearly knew that they should be responsible for it. They should give Jian Wushuang an explanation indeed. Jian Wushuang. A mighty voice sounded. It was the monarch of the Immortals Killing Empire, the frivolous man. However, he was not as arrogant as before, looking toward Jian Wushuang apologetically at this moment. For what happened today, we, the 12 Northwestern dynasties, apologize wholeheartedly, but we must explain that we had nothing that we could have done to prevent this. We can't give you an explanation that would satisfy you. What I can tell you is the force that wanted to kill you is far beyond our endurance range. The 12 Northwestern dynasties are like ants in front of that force. It can make us perish without a sweat. The force wanted to kill you, and we weren't capable to stop it. After saying that, the flippant man let out his breath and directly closed his eyes. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but squint. He understood something from what the monarch of the Immortals Killing Empire said. It was not only the Blood Feather Tower who wanted to kill him, but now another force, a much more dangerous one, had the same goal. The force was so horrible that the 12 Northwestern dynasties were extremely frightened by it. Therefore, even though the Blood Feather Tower intruded on the field of the easternmost hunting to assassinate him, they did not dare to stop the event. There really is a more horrible force behind Blood Feather Tower, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He had guessed that Blood Feather Tower was not as simple as it had appeared. His guess was now finally confirmed. However, what Jian Wushuang didn't expect was that the force behind Blood Feather Tower was so powerful. Even the Wilderness Sword Sect, one of the 8 top sects in Nanyang, could not frighten the 12's Northwestern so much that they were incapable to retaliate. After thinking about that, Jian Wushuang understood why the 12 Northwestern dynasties didn't help him. He turned his sight towards Di Shi. She still sat on the seat, looking at Jian Wushuang. His eyes were full of apologies and embarrassment. Jian Wushuang nodded at Di Shi slightly. He knew that Di Shi was forced not to help him. Apparently, there are so many people in the world wanting to kill me Jian Wushuang sneered and said, did you realize that only now? A cold voice came from the void beside him. It was Grayrobe who was speaking. Jian Wushuang looked over at the man in a gray robe, narrowing his eyes, and said, "If I didn't guess wrong, you are Sir Grayrobe of Blood, Feather Tower." Grayrobe said coldly, "You flatter me, Jian Wushuang. It was out of my expectation that your strength had advanced to such a high extent. Even though we had sent all the elite killers, they collapsed at the first blows. If I have known that you would reach such a level, I wouldn't have underestimated you and killed you personally." Well, it's too late to be regretful now. Jian Wushuang said, "Not too late. I can get rid of you right now." When Grayrobe said that, a blood-red blade appeared in his hand. Meanwhile, a blast of aura of the Yang Void realm burst out strongly. The soaring aura spread out. The Yang Void realm was much stronger than the Yin Void realm. Jian Wushuang perceived the blast of aura, the battle intent rising in his cold eyes. Good. I want to see how strong an expert in the Yang Void realm is. After finishing his words, Jian Wushuang stepped forward fiercely. He had combined 4 kinds of sword essence and simultaneously comprehended sword way source. Therefore, he emanated the roaring sword essence at this moment. The fearful sword essence formed a huge storm between the sky and ground, not scattering for a long time. While the fighting in the battlefield of the easternmost hunting had only started raging on, dozens of purple-robed figures spared no efforts to rush from the void of the easternmost plain to the Sky Valley. At the center of these purple-robed figures, a man sat on a purple cloud condor. It was Wang Yuan. Wretch, the force behind Bloodfeather Tower is so powerful. I should have known that they won't easily let off the 3rd younger brother. Indeed, Bloodfeather Tower has taken action and chose to kill him in the easternmost hunting. But it's lucky that the killers are from Bloodfeather Tower, and experts of that force haven't stepped in this battle. The 3rd younger brother has a chance to survive. I hope the 3rd younger brother can hold on. Wang Yuan looked worried. He originally stayed comfortably in Dragon Palace, but suddenly received a message that a large number of experts set out for the easternmost plain. Wang Yuan immediately presumed that Bloodfeather Tower was aiming at Jian Wushuang. Therefore, he brought his experts over here at once. I don't know why Holy Emperor Palace wants to kill the 3rd younger brother. The 3rd brother is just a warrior in the primordial gold core realm now. What's more, his ancestors were born in the mansion of Sword Marquis in the Tianzong dynasty. How did he offend Holy Emperor Palace? Wang Yuan murmured confusingly to himself. He clearly knew that the horrible force behind Bloodfeather Tower was Holy Emperor Palace. Even he and his sect were exceedingly fearful of Holy Emperor Palace. How could such a horrible overlord want to kill Jian Wushuang, a man just of the primordial gold core realm? It's unreasonable. No matter how confused Wang Yuan was, that was what Holy Emperor Palace did. Chapter 2:12, Fighting Against Grayrobe. Chapter 2:12, Fighting Against Grayrobe. Rumble. A terrible breath of Yang Void realm burst from Grayrobe, while an overwhelming sword essence exuded from Jian Wushuang. They stared at each other. The moment their aura reached the peak, they disappeared at the same time. When they appeared in the void, the 2 scary attacks were colliding on head. The movement Jian Wushuang displayed was idealistic form, the first move of the selfless sword technique, combining 4 sword essences, and, most important, containing a stream of origin. The strike was powerful. On the other side, the blood-red blade Grayrobe struck was perfectly combined with drip sword essence and dark sword essence. When it came to the comprehension of sword essence, Jian Wushuang who grasped the origin, was much better than Grayrobe. But Grayrobe, an expert of the Yang Void realm, was much stronger than Jian Wuxuang in cultivation of spiritual power. Bang! After the crash, Jian Wuxuang shivered, and his right hand, holding the long sword, became numb. Go to hell! With a sudden shout, Grayrobe turned his blood-red blade into a blood shadow of a ghost, appearing in front of Jian Wuxuang, soundlessly. Hua, 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 hua. He consistently hacked 4 times, and each time, the blood-red blade was as fast as lightning striking down the earth. Jian Wuxuang fended against them successfully, but his body was beaten back. Start destroying! Grayrobe shouted. With just a shout, the whole vicinity started to rumble. With a sudden outburst, a horrible breath gathered in Grayrobe, and then the blood-red blade slashed in Jian Wuxuang direction. A blood shadow flew across the void. Even the air was split without mercy. As far as eyes could see, a giant blood shadow like a crescent blood moon, which carried unparalleled power, suddenly showed up over Jian Wuxuang's head. Jian Wuxuang made a slight pupil constriction, and he could only raise his triple-kill sword to withstand the attack. Bang! Whoosh! After a thud, Jian Wuxuang was absolutely hit and fell down on the plains of the sky valley beneath. Like a meteorite falling, Jian Wuxuang slammed into the ground, which immediately shook the earth. All at once, a giant hole turned up. Even when it came to this point, the battle wasn't over at all. Grayrobe showed up above the giant hole. Go to hell! With the roaring killing intent in his eyes, Grayrobe waved his blood-red blade and stabbed along the void. There were ripples floating in the void, and they eventually turned into a crazy rotating bloody rainbow, which, like an electric drill, struck toward Jian Wuxuang, who was in the hole. Rumble! The whole earth was frantically quivering. A mass of gravel and dust scattered everywhere, forming an awful storm. However, a giant spiral cave appeared on the ground when everything dissipated. A cave around dozens of meters deep. But there was nothing at the bottom of the cave, even not a hint of any existence of a human being. How could he avoid this? Grayrobe looked aghast. By consistent attacks, he wanted to make sure not to give Jian Wuxuang any chance to endure it and recover. But Jian Wuxuang somehow avoided his attack, making his plan fall apart. Is this the real strength of an expert of the Yang Void realm? Standing in the void, Jian Wuxuang stared at the giant cave with his cold eyes and said, "It is true that you are much stronger than the experts at the peak of the Yang Void realm just by strength alone. However," Jian Wuxuang raised his head and looked straight at Grayrobe. His cold voice echoed between the heaven and the earth. "Merely using strength to get rid of me. How could you have even thought that would be enough to kill me? You are not qualified." As soon as Jian Wuxuang got his last word out, he made a flash move and then appeared in front of Grayrobe. He moved so fast that it seemed like teleportation. Then Jian Wuxuang raised his sword, a strike lashing out. The first move of the selfless sword technique, idealistic form. As the sword shadow swept through it, the power of the origin reached the apex instantaneously. Wearing a sullen look, the Grayrobe snorted and waved his blade, whose power had also reached an overpowering amount. But when they had a head-on collision, this time, Grayrobe was startled that he could not gain the upper hand at all. Then Jian Wuxuang started to perform his swordsmanship again. But this time it was the second move of the selfless sword technique, solipsistic form. As an original sword technique, the selfless sword technique had the most horrible power if the origin was applied to it. In addition, the latter one was naturally much more powerful than the former in the upper 6 moves. Solipsistic form was more powerful than idealistic form. Confronted with this strike, Grayrobe hurried to block it at once. Just a moment later, he felt a great force passing through his arms, which made him feel a sharp pain in the arms, and he could not help but stagger and step back. Right after that, Jian Wushuang continued to display Sky Isolating Form, the third move of the Selfless Sword technique. This move was the strongest that he had at present. Due to the quality of his preparation of the move, he was able to efficiently show the extent of his strength. A stunning glowing golden light lashed out with great power, eventually hitting the blood-red blade of Grayrobe violently. Even the universe was shocked by it. Then people could see the blood-red blade in the Grayrobe's hand drastically shaking and even starting to curve. That horrible power passed into the Grayrobe's body from the arms down. Grayrobe lost hope. His body could not help but retreat. "Excuse me, you said you wanted to kill me?" Holding his triple kill sword, Jian Wushuang stood in the void with a cold look on his face. There was an overwhelming sword essence around him, and his cold words echoed between the heaven and earth, which made him seem like a matchless blade master. Grayrobe fell into total astonishment. In the void, the experts from the 12 dynasties and the old sects could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. As an expert such as Yang Void Realm, he was repelled by Jian Wushuang with merely 3 moves. Although he was only repelled instead of being defeated or killed, it still proved that Jian Wushuang was no worse than the Grayrobe, or even better than him according to their real strength. How could one of the primordial gold core realm repel an expert of the Yang Void Realm? Everyone was dumbstruck. Grayrobe's look at present was extremely sullen. He had never thought that Jian Wushuang, who was in the primordial gold core realm, could have so much battle strength to rival him. Origin. It must be the origin. The legendary origin was so horrible. The Grayrobe could not help thinking of it. The experts of the 12 dynasties and the old sects also supposed that Jian Wushuang was so strong because of the origin. But in fact, only Jian Wushuang himself knew that powerful as the origin could be, it couldn't make one of primordial gold core realm fight against an expert of the Yang Void Realm. Despite the benefit of the origin, the victory against Grayrobe can be more attributed to the heavenly creation skill, a cultivation method which defied the natural order. Indeed, he was in the exceptional gold core realm, but when his spiritual power erupted with the help of Supreme Gold Core, he was not weaker than experts in the initial Yin Void realm. As a result, they should not regard him as a normal expert of the exceptional Gold Core realm. Instead, he should be treated as an expert of the initial Yin Void realm. Chapter 2:13, Shameless. Chapter 2:13, Shameless. An expert of the primordial golden pill realm able to contend with an expert of the Yang Void realm was indeed unbelievable. If Jian Wushuang was an expert of the initial Yin Void realm, it would be acceptable that he could fight against the experts of Yin Void realm. Jian Wushuang was an ostensible expert of the primordial gold core realm already, but his strength was not weaker than that of the expert of the initial Yin Void realm on every aspect. At that moment, the Grayrobe's face was totally distorted. He definitely hadn't thought that despite the fact that he spared no effort to attack Jian Wushuang, he failed to achieve anything, that the end result made him end up on the losing side. What should I do next? Grayrobe's eyes became bleak. He led a great number of elites from Blood Feather Tower to attack Jian Wushuang, but those elite purple mask killers were all killed by Jian Wushuang. Such a huge loss. If Jian Wushuang was not killed now, it should be known that he had already tried assassinating Jian Wushuang twice, but both of those times failed. A third failure was always not allowed in Blood Feather Tower. Therefore, he had to kill Jian in the third assassination. If it failed, as the leader, he surely would be killed according to the Blood Feather Tower's rules. But he didn't want to die. This guy now is strong enough to fight with me openly. I can't kill him alone, unless Grayrobe slightly squinted his eyes and then looked toward the experts of the 12 dynasties as well as the old sections. Gentlemen, is there anyone who would like to help me kill him? Blood Feather Tower promises to repay the favor, Grayrobe said in a resonant voice sounding around the whole void. Hearing this, every expert above the void showed strange expressions. Oh, since he is incapable of killing Jian Wushuang, should he expect us to help him? Grayrobe is cunning. I'm not willing to deal with the little guy, since we don't have any hatred between us. Jian Wushuang has marvelous talent, which makes me admire him even more so. For that, I won't attack him. The experts from the 12 dynasties and the old sects didn't take action as Grayrobe had hoped. Meanwhile, those experts all looked at Grayrobe with sarcastic eyes. Who was Jian Wushuang? He was the peerless genius joining the Easternmost hunting. In the Easternmost hunting, what Jian Wushuang performed was very stunning. It shocked everyone. When Blood Feather Tower directly tried to assassinate Jian Wushuang in the Easternmost hunting, all 12 dynasties felt guilty for that they couldn't help Jian Wushuang because they feared the force behind Blood Feather Tower. At that moment, how should Grayrobe expect them to kill Jian Wushuang? The face is as important to a man as the bark is to a tree. Those experts from the 12 dynasties were all monarchs, and how could they have no sense of shame? Jian Wushuang, the monarch of the Cosmos Empire, that weathered elder, said it in a low voice at this moment. Monarchs from other dynasties all looked over at the weathered elder. Among those 12 dynasties, he was the only one that had a reason to deal with Jian Wushuang. At that time, the weathered elder slightly raised up his head and solemnly looked at Jian Wushuang, firmly saying, although in the Easternmost hunting, this guy has killed many talents from my empire, which humiliates me greatly. But the Easternmost hunting is originally a fierce competition between talents from the 12 dynasties. Talents from my Cosmos Empire are only to blame themselves for their death because of their weak abilities. So, I have to bear their fault alone. But now, there is a chance to fight with this guy. Why not have a try? The weathered elder glimpsed Grayrobe with disdain. None of the monarchs from the 12 dynasties were willing to take any action, and neither did the experts from the old sections. All of them disregarded what Grayrobe said. The Grayrobe's face turned pale and yelled immediately, "Gentlemen, you should know that it is that force that wants Jian Wushuang to be dead, not the Blood Feather Tower. Who helps me kill him will be repaid by that force. It is the best chance to get in touch with that force. Don't you want to get their favor?" Now, what he said did intrigue the experts present, that they would perhaps even consider the offer. However, the 12 dynasties and the experts from the old sects still kept calm. The only one who was considerably swayed at the moment was Mo Lingtian, who came from the Wilderness Sword sect. Mo Lingtian originally disliked Jian Wushuang. Seeing Jian Wushuang being at the center of an assassination even brought him pleasure. But now, what Grayrobe said indeed motivated him. It should be known that the force was Holy Emperor Palace. He clearly knew that Holy Emperor Palace's power should never be underestimated. In recent years, the integral status of our Wilderness Sword sect has been in a decline. There are less talented disciples and experts in the sect. They gradually fell in rank and now are the last in the top 8 sects, and some smaller sects even want to remove us from their current position. If I can have something connected with Holy Emperor Palace, the Wilderness Sword sect would undoubtedly have a much higher status due to the influence that Holy Emperor Palace wields. And personally, I would have made an immeasurable contribution to the sect. The contribution would be immeasurably unique and influential, making me the law-enforcing elder, one of the top leaders of the sect. In decades, perhaps my name also will appear on the election of a new sect master. When Mo Lingtian thought about it, his eyes became soldering hot, gleaming with the future he had envisioned. Whereafter, he rushed towards Grayrobe. "Ha, Mr. Grayrobe, right? I'm Mo Lingtian, from the Wilderness Sword Sect. I'm willing to help you." Chipper laughter spread. Then Mo Lingtian appeared beside Grayrobe. Seeing Mo Lingtian, Jian Wushuang's face changed. On the nearby void, 12 dynasties and those experts from the old sects couldn't help being stunned and angry. "Mr. Lingtian, don't you think this is overdoing it to deal with a guy in the golden core level? Mr. Lingtian, please behave yourself." Mo Lingtian, you are the law-enforcing elder of the Wilderness Sword Sect, one of the 8 sects of Nanyang. Should you do such dishonor to yourself and your sect, bullying someone lesser than you? Many experts stood up to rebuke him, although they called him Mr. Lingtian to show a hint of respect to him. They actually despised him from the bottom. Shameless. Too shameless. She couldn't help scolding him angrily. Chapter 214. Elevate Strength Again. Chapter 214. Elevate Strength Again. Shameless. Indeed, shameless. The experts from the 12 dynasties and the old sects were all glaring at Mo Lingtian. Those idiots, Mo Lingtian didn't care those gazes and sneered in mind. In the presence of huge interests, I prefer to be brazen. That's a little cost, as long as I could connect our sect with Holy Emperor Palace. Jian Wushuang also looked at the abruptly emerging Mo Lingtian. Wilderness Sword Sect. A solemn look appeared on Jian Wushuang's face. Before the point grab battle in the Sky Valley, he heard that although there were lots of experts from the old sects, the most flamboyant sect was the Wilderness Sword Sect, and it was one of the top sects. The sect was one of the most suitable sects for Jian Wushuang, due to it focused on the sword principle. Therefore, Jian Wushuang originally was full of expectation for the Wilderness Sword Sect. But now, Jian Wushuang rejoiced at not joining the Wilderness Sword Sect. "Are you Mo Lingtian from the Wilderness Sword Sect?" Jian Wushuang looked at Mo Lingtian. Yes, Mo Lingtian nodded and said, "Little guy, you should call me Master Lingtian." "So unmannered. Is that what your parents teach you?" My parents didn't teach me how to be a shameless man like you." Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. "I originally wanted to join the Wilderness Sword Sect, but now I will pass. The Wilderness Sword Sect seems to cultivate shameless experts." "Ridiculous. Compared with numerous geniuses in our Wilderness Sword Sect, you are nothing." Mo Lingtian sneered. "Mr. Lingtian, it's not imperative to tell him so much. Kill him right now," the gray-robed man shouted. "Take it easy. He will die beyond any doubts." Mo Lingtian was confident. After all, his confidence was based on the fact that he was a real expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm. Compared with Grayrobe, who was merely at the initial Yang Void realm, Mo Lingtian was 3 levels stronger. Mo Lingtian began to have a gait, and his aura was emanated. The aura was stronger than before when he took another step. The terrific aura overwhelmed Jian Wushuang and made him harder to breathe. Peak of the Yang Void realm. Jian Wushuang's face fell. Then he raised his head and roared. Mo Lingtian! Mo Lingtian looked up at Jian Wushuang again. Jian Wushuang's eyes were imbued with terrific killing intent. "You have chosen who to side with, and your decision is set in stone in my eyes. Today, It may impossible for me to hurt you, but there will be a day when you will be laying down on the ground, motionless. In the future, I think you should focus on surviving right now. Mo Lingtian was laughing and didn't care what Jian Wushuang said. Mo Lingtian's figure burst out. During the burst, the terrific aura was condensed to an extreme amount, and the surrounding air was solidified completely because of it. When Jian Wushuang saw Mo Lingtian dashing towards him, he shrank his eyes and turned around to run away. Escape! Mo Lingtian smiled coldly and continued chasing Jian Wushuang. As an expert at the peak of the Yang Void Realm, his speed was faster than Jian Wushuang's. It would not take him much time to catch up with Jian Wushuang. However, he did not know that Jian Wushuang chose to run in the opposite direction, not because he wanted to escape, but because he was executing a secret kill. A secret skill that takes one's soul. A glimpse of madness flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes, and the soul-taking secret skill was executed. Executing the soul-taking secret skill needed some time, therefore, he had no choice but to get some distance. In the process of escaping, he executed the secret skill. With executing the soul-taking secret skill, a horrible engulfing power burst out from Jian Wushuang immediately and began to engulf the surrounding area, taking anything that was alive. Jian Wushuang escaped inside the jungle in the Sky Valley. The effect that the skill had on the environment was horrifying. The surrounding trees which he passed by began to dry up instantly and then become deadwood. The below ground also turned yellow and became dried as if a drought has been in place for decades. Abundant living qi flowed into Jian Wushuang's body, and it made Jian Wushuang's aura surge up immediately. Initially, his aura was at the level of the exceptional gold core realm, but in a short time span, the aura was at the peak of the gold core realm. Subsequently, it was still surging up to break through the gold core realm and reach the initial Yin Void realm. After reaching the initial Yin Void realm, the surging aura had ceased. Just the initial Yin Void realm. Jian Wushuang frowned. He had reached the exceptional gold core realm, but now he merely reached the initial Yin Void realm after executing the soul-taking secret skill. He was not gratified with the improvement of only one level. Only the first volume of the soul-taking secret skill is less useful than before for me, Jian Wushuang said secretly. The soul-taking secret skill was divided into 3 volumes. He only had the first volume. The first volume was useful for him previously because his battle strength could be improved several levels after executing it. However, with the improvement of his realm, it was apparent that merely having the first volume was limiting him. Despite only going up by 1 level, it's better than nothing. The killing intent flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Detecting the sound of wind behind him, he knew that Mo Lingtian had caught up to him. Without hesitance, Jian Wushuang turned around, and his triple kill sword was trembling in his hand. With a lugubrious echo of the sword, the long sword burst out directly. Selfless sword technique, sky isolating form. A combination of 4 sword essences. Swordway source. The cultivation of spiritual power was comparable to the initial Yin Void realm after executing the heavenly creation skill, plus the 100-fold strength because of the surging supreme gold core realm. Complete activation. Boom. A streak of shining golden flowing light appeared in this world. The golden flowing light caught everyone's eyes instantly. The golden flowing light was brutal, overbearing, and irresistible. Go to hell. At that moment, Mo Lingtian waved a long sword and chopped casually. Although the swordsmanship was normal, the cultivation of spiritual power at the peak of the Yang Void realm burst out. Thud! A huge roar resounded through the sky. When the two horrible attacks interacted, the void formed a blast wave, which even naked eyes could see, creating ripples throughout the exchange of attacks. Hua hua! Many surrounding trees were immediately cracked from their trunks, and in a short time, more than 100 trees had collapsed. After the confrontation, Jian Wushuang moved back, but so did Mo Lingtian retreated 3 steps. What? After standing firm, Mo Lingtian looked at Jian Wushuang anew, and his complexion was filled with a ghastness. This move didn't kill him. Mo Lingtian was surprised because he was an expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm. Logically speaking, an expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm could outclass a man at the initial Yang Void realm easily. However, Jian Wushuang did not die, and he even was able to withstand the attack. His battle strength improved. Even Mo Lingtian felt sincerely astonished. Chapter 215, You Must Die. Chapter 215, You Must Die. Boom. Jian Wushuang hit 3 trees successively, like shells. The trees collapsed, and then his body came to a halt. An expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm is powerful indeed. Jian Wushuang's eyes were slightly cold, and he was imbued with helplessness. An expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm was much stronger than Grayrobe in the initial Yang Void realm. Although his strength surged after executing the soul-taking secret skill, it still was lacking in power to fight Mo Lingtian. Mo Lingtian's casual move, which didn't require that much effort apparently, could still outclass him easily. I cannot defeat him. Just in a single encounter, Jian Wushuang realized how far apart are his and Mo Lingtian's capabilities. There was no choice but to escape. But before leaving, whoosh! Suddenly, Jian Wushuang turned around and dashed out. Little guy, do you still want to escape? Mo Lingtian was roaring with anger, and he didn't want to let Jian Wushuang slip away at all. But Jian Wushuang only took a few steps before he changed direction. What? Mo Lingtian was stunned for a second, and then he realized that the direction Jian Wushuang was dashing towards was where Grayrobe was located. Does he want to kill Grayrobe? Oh no! Realizing that, Mo Lingtian became much more serious and dashed towards the same direction. Above the void, Grayrobe gave a treacherous smile, thinking that Jian Wushuang would be killed by Mo Lingtian. Suddenly, he saw Jian Wushuang dashing toward him. Huh! A flicker of fear appeared in Grayrobe's eyes. He saw the entire process that Jian Wushuang fought with Mo Lingtian. Although Jian Wushuang was outclassed, Jian Wushuang's outbreaking strength was stronger than his. Now, Jian Wushuang was dashing toward him with pure killing intent. Grayrobe felt a slight tremble of fear within his heart, but quickly enough he calmed himself down. After all, he was only at the level of the primordial gold core. I don't think he will make it. Grayrobe was roaring, and his blood-red blade flashed a chilly light in his hand. Then he started levitating. Jian Wushuang was filled with killing intent as he stared at Grayrobe. Other than you, everyone present can leave unharmed. The killing intent was roaring. The triple kill sword lashed out, and the golden flowing light swept again in a short time. Insect, go to hell! Grayrobe was roaring, and his blood-red blade stabbed towards Jian Wushuang. Slam! With a loud voice, the terrific power was sweeping around crazily. Grayrobe's pupils dilated at this time. He lowered his head and saw a bowl-like gaping hole in his chest. The gaping hole went through his body and punctured his heart. Grayrobe's eyes still revealed a gleam of disbelief. However, his breath began to dissipate, and his body shortly thereafter fell down on the ground. He was too arrogant. He had never thought that a warrior at the primordial gold core realm could kill him. However, even before performing the soul-taking secret skill, Jian Wushuang was on equal grounds with the Grayrobe in terms of power. Grayrobe did not expect that Jian Wushuang became much stronger than him with the help of the soul-devouring secret skill. Had the Grayrobe turned around to escape, when he saw Jian Wushuang dash towards him instead of confronting him, he might have had a chance to live. His arrogance had cost his life. Damn it! Seeing Grayrobe's death, Mo Lingtian gave a solemn look. He wanted to connect to Holy Emperor Palace via Grayrobe. But now, Grayrobe was killed by Jian Wushuang. Little guy, you should die without mercy. The aura from Mo Lingtian had surged to a shocking level. After killing Grayrobe, Jian Wushuang immediately continued to run, but he was much slower compared to Mo Lingtian. There is no obstacles above the void. It's easy for him to chase me at this speed unhindered, but as long as I run into the jungle, I may escape successfully. Jian Wushuang thought secretly. Even in this time, he could still keep level-headed and search for a way to escape. However, at this point, whoosh, a purple-robed figure appeared behind him without any notice. Huh! Jian Wushuang was surprised by this, as he did not expect anybody other than Mo Lingtian to follow him. But it was obvious that the purple-robed person did not want to fight with him, because he was blocking Mo Lingtian. This person, Mo Lingtian, also saw the person and was confused by the sudden appearance. But the purple-robed person had said nothing since his appearance. The individual was only standing in between Mo Lingtian and Jian Wushuang. Soon enough, the person clenched his right palm into a fist and then began to attack Mo Lingtian. What? Mo Lingtian was not only surprised but confused as well. The moment the purple-robed person gave the first punch, Mo Lingtian felt a terrific power instantly. Although he did not have this power, he was familiar with it. Origin, after letting out a scream of terror, Mo Lingtian's longsword was taken out without any indiscretion. This time, he performed the strongest move in his life. A streak of the sword's shadow drew a special ring, just like a thunderbolt, and then burst out swiftly and violently at the unknown individual. The sword shadow appeared in front of the purple-robed person directly. Instantly, the punch the purple-robed person gave became more powerful. Bang! With a loud noise, the void seemed to be distorted. Many streaks of intangible ripples were waving. In the beginning, it was very quiet, but then the ripples formed into a terrific salvo of a power storm. The power storm was sweeping above the void without any obstruction. Likewise, above the void, the experts from the 12 dynasties and the old sects all became the storm's target indiscriminately. All of them could not help but close their eyes. The two terrifying power were crashing into each other. However, suddenly, hearing the fracture of his bone, Mo Lingtian widened his eyes and only felt that the enormous power was transmitted through his right hand. In an instant, all the bone in his right arm fractured. Then he started to feel blood in his throat, making him vomit a mouthful of blood before violently retreating. One punch. Mo Lingtian, who was the expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm, suffered serious injuries due to a single punch. Above the void, everything became still and silent. The experts from the 12 dynasties and the old sects were all staring at the purple-robed person with pure shock. They all found that not only the purple-robed person reached the peak of the Yang Void realm, but also comprehended the origin. Such experts stood at the top of the pyramid in the Nanyang continent. They were only weaker than the legendary experts who were divine transcendents. Now, such an expert appeared before them. Chapter 216, Wang Yuan's Identity. Chapter 216. Wang Yuan's Identity. You are. Jian Wushuang stopped in his tracks and gave a look of surprise at the purple-robed figure. At once, several purple-robed figures appeared in the void. Amidst the purple-robed figures was a purple cloud condor in the middle and a man sitting on it. Third brother. Wang Yuan looked over at Jian Wushuang. Eldest brother. Jian Wushuang could not help but smile as he realized who the purple-robed person was. Donning a purple robe, it was certain that he was one of Wang Yuan's people. As soon as Wang Yuan got news that a number of killers from Blood Feather Tower had gone to the easternmost plain, he hurriedly came over, arriving just in time. "I'm not late, am I?" Wang Yuan said with a smile. "No, right on time." Jian Wushuang grinned and instantly stopped his soul-taking secret skill. The soul-taking secret skill would be of too much harm to Jian Wushuang's body. The longer he used it, the weaker he would get. He felt a sharp pain, as if his body was about to collapse. Come on to the condor," Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang leaped onto the back of the purple cloud condor and sat down. "Those killers of the Blood Feather Tower were targeting you. Where are they now?" Wang Yuan asked curiously. "I killed them all," Jian Wushuang said coldly. "The only one left alive is from the Wilderness Sword Sect." The Wilderness Sword Sect. Wang Yuan glanced over at Mo Lingtian. Mo Lingtian's breathing weakened drastically. He was badly wounded after the run-in with the purple-robed person. Seeing the purple-robed figures, Mo Lingtian's eyes darkened. He said coldly, "I am the law-enforcing elder of the Wilderness Sword Sect. Who are you? How dare you hurt me? How dare you?" "Hurt you?" Wang Yuan sneered and said, "Not only can I hurt you, I can also kill you." "Dan, kill him," Wang Yuan ordered. "Yes," the purple-robed person who had fought with Mo Lingtian replied. He then raised his head and locked his eyes with Mo Lingtian. Mo Lingtian suddenly felt great panic. "I'm the law-enforcing elder of the Wilderness Sword Sect. How dare you kill me?" "Kill me, and none of you can get away," Mo Lingtian exclaimed wildly. But Wang Yuan was unfazed by his threat. The Wilderness Sword Sect was only a small fry to him. "Eldest brother," Jian Wushuang suddenly called. "What is it?" Wang Yuan looked over at him questioningly. "I want to kill him," said Jian Wushuang. "You? Are you able to do it this instant?" Wang Yuan looked at Jian Wushuang, surprised. Judging from Jian Wushuang's appearance, Wang Yuan knew he was in a bad state now. Even if he were all right, he would be no match for Mo Lingtian. "Of course I'm not in the best state to kill him now, but I will do it eventually." Jian Wushuang smiled. He did not want to use others to kill his enemies. Wang Yuan was his brother, and unless necessary, he hoped that he could kill all the enemies by himself. "Are you sure?" Wang Yuan said with a deep look in his eyes. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded seriously. "Fine, I will keep him alive for now. But even if he's not killed just yet, he should still be taught a lesson." Wang Yuan turned his eyes coldly. "Dan-yi." After a shout from Wang Yuan, Danny got the hint and immediately moved to Mo Lingtian. What followed was a slap on Mo Lingtian's face. Too fast. Though both of them were at the peak of the Yang Void realm, Dan-yi was much stronger because he understood the origin. Without giving Mo Lingtian a chance to react, Dan-yi slapped him across the face. Puff! Mo Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood and rolled dozens of meters away. When he finally stood up, a red palm was seen on his face. Feeling the fiery pain on his cheek, Mo Lingtian felt ashamed and resentful. An expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm was slapped in front of so many people. How could he not feel ashamed? You. Mo Lingtian stared at Dan, Wang Yuan, and the others. What did we do? Danny glanced at him coldly. Mo Lingtian was stunned and did not dare say another word. Dan had 2 shots, and with successive blow, he inflicted greater fear. You said none of us could get away if you killed us. Danny stared at Mo Lingtian with cold eyes. Humph, I'm afraid your sect master would dare not admit that you, a law-enforcing elder, even if our young master of the alchemy school killed you. So what? The Wilderness Sword sect dare not express any dissatisfaction. Hearing that, Mo Lingtian was shocked, and he began to shudder. Alchemy school. Mo Lingtian looked at Dan with fearful eyes, and turned to look at Wang Yuan, who was sitting on a purple cloud condor. For a moment, his head was a blank. The experts of the 12 dynasties and the old sects around also gave a gasp of shock at this moment. Alchemy school. Could they be from the alchemy school? The alchemy school, a force that can stand up against the Holy Emperor Palace as an equal. Mo Lingtian should provoke the alchemy school. Many experts present were knowledgeable. They knew what a horrible force Holy Emperor Palace was. Naturally, they knew that the alchemy school was also a powerful force that could be a match for the Holy Emperor Palace. That was why they were shocked. Meanwhile, they all turned to Wang Yuan, sitting on the purple cloud condor. He is young master of the alchemy school. At once, their expressions showed respect. Wang Yuan, seated on the purple cloud condor, seemed like a normal fat man with weak spiritual power of the initial gold core realm. His identity shocked them all. The young master of the alchemy school. Standing in front of such a noble person, what could the law-enforcing elder of Wilderness Sword sect do? As Danny had said, nothing would happen even if he killed Mo Lingtian. The Wilderness Sword sect would not dare to complain. It seemed that the Wilderness Sword sect would not seek revenge for him, but had to calm the young master's anger. Mo Lingtian. Jian Wushuang's voice called out suddenly, and people around looked over in an instant. I, Jian Wushuang, have always given kindness for kindness and hatred for hatred. Today, although the experts of the 12 dynasties and the old sects have treated me unfairly, I know they have their difficulties. I am understanding and do not hate them. But you are different. I say it again, there will be a time for that. From now on, we are at deep enmity with each other. Chapter 217, Things have come to a close. Chapter 217, Things have come to a close. Eldest brother, let's go, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Wang Yuan nodded. Let's take second brother and fourth sister first. After he spoke, Wang Yuan patted his purple cloud condor and went to the Sky Valley. Upon taking them along, they all left Sky Valley. Above the void, experts from the 12 dynasties and the old sects were gloatingly looking at Mo Lingtian. Mo Lingtian's face had turned pale. Alchemy school, Mo Lingtian murmured, as if in a trance-like state. By the way, the grab battle, what should we do? A monarch suddenly asked. What else can we do? This can't go on any longer. It needs to be stopped. The other monarchs agreed. Let's end it, the monarch of the Cosmos Empire said. This year's easternmost hunting is ended, and the standings will be ranked according to their current points. All right. I agree. Let's run with that. Supported by most of the monarchs, the easternmost hunting was stopped at once. Those geniuses who were still in Sky Valley were called back, and a new list was made according to their current points. The rankings were as follows. In first place, Tianzong Dynasty, Jian Wushuang. In second place, Tianzong Dynasty, Yang Zaishuan. In third place, Tianzong Dynasty, Su Rou. Coming in fourth, Tianzong Dynasty, Bailey Chun. Coming in 5th, Tianzong Dynasty, Feng Yuqian. Coming in 6th, Tianzong Dynasty, Mu Yingying. In 7th Z Dynasty, amongst the standings, the top 6 were all from the Tianzong Dynasty. This was of no doubt. The following positions were filled by the Z Dynasty and the East Hill Empire, the Cosmos Empire, and the Immortals Killing Empire, the 2 largest empires in the 12 dynasties, had no one who ranked in the top 15. This was because the geniuses from the Cosmos Empire were all killed by Jian Wushuang, and the points of the geniuses from the Immortals Killing Empire were all grabbed by him. It could be said that both largest empires were defeated by Jian Wushuang in the easternmost hunting. With the new standings were published, this year's easternmost hunting came to the close. Near a lake in the vast easternmost plain, Jian Wushuang and the others stopped. Eldest brother, the elixir you gave me was quite effective. Jian Wushuang smiled, feeling that the pain in his body had been eased significantly. The elixir, which Wang Yuan gave him on the way, was really effective. Of course, don't you know who I am? How could the elixir I offer just be ordinary? Wang Yuan smiled, patting his chest. It's a pity that both you and 4th sister were severely injured. Otherwise, you might have been back in shape within a half day after taking them. But now, you should be fully recovered in 2 or 3 days. Jian Wushuang looked at Su Ro, who was beside him, beaming. Su Ro's face turned ruddy and restored some breath. Though she was still weak, she was much better than before. This was owed to the elixir that Wang Yuan had given her. As for second brother, Wang Yuan looked at Yang Zishuan. Though he was not so badly injured, his left arm was cut off, which was much worse than Jian Wushuang, and Su Ro. It's a pity I couldn't refine the purple fire body shaping elixir to help grow back limbs. Otherwise, I would have given you one, Wang Yuan said with a faint smile, but you can be rest assured that though I can't give you one now, I will try to ask my father for one after I go back to elixir school. Yang Zishuan's expression changed a little after hearing that. The purple fire body shaping elixir was a high-level elixir. Few alchemists in the Nanyang continent could refine it, but it seemed that it may not be so hard to get one according to what Wang Yuan said. Right, second brother, between you and the Cosmos Empire, what's going on? Why did those from the Cosmos Empire crazily try and kill you? Jian Wushuang asked. He had wanted to ask him when they were in Sky Valley, but since they were in battle, he had no chance to ask. Yang Zishuan's face fell slightly. Second brother, if you are not willing to say, I will explain for you. I know it, Wang Yuan said. Yang Zishuan nodded gently, and Wang Yuan continued. Second brother comes from the Cosmos Empire, and his identity is special. He is the son of King Yang, the younger brother of the Cosmos Empire's current monarch. Years ago, King Yang and the monarch of Cosmos Empire fought for the succession to the throne. Finally, King Yang was defeated and killed by the monarch. Since then, second brother is a wanted man, #1 on the wanted list. This time, those geniuses from the Cosmos Empire came to him in the easternmost hunting because they wanted a handsome reward. After speaking, Wang Yuan fell silent. Get it? Jian Wushuang's face changed slightly, and he looked over at Yang Zishuan. Yang Zishuan frowned, but did not say a word. Being born into a royal family, it's hard to get away from things like this. To be wanted is something he cannot control. The monarch of the Cosmos Empire is pretty kind to have made second brother a wanted man only in the Cosmos Empire rather than in all the 12 dynasties. Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang let out a heavy sigh and shook his head slightly. He did not understand it, for he was not born in a royal family. What second brother faced was not so troublesome. The one who got into real trouble was you Third brother. Wang Yuan suddenly turned to him. You are in great danger, now, for you are targeted by that place. What place? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Then he turned over his hand and took out a light golden token with the word holy carved on it. He received a token from Grayrobe's interspatial ring after killing him. Eldest brother, the place you referred to is the owner of the token, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Right. Wang Yuan nodded. It is one of the overlords in the Nanyang continent, Holy Emperor Palace. The Holy Emperor Palace. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and kept it in his deep heart. Third brother, you were born in a small empire, and I'm afraid that you have never left it. You know little about the Nanyang continent. I will tell you more in detail. Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and listened carefully. Chapter 218, Lord of Nanyang, Holy Emperor Palace. Chapter 218, Lord of Nanyang, Holy Emperor Palace. The Nanyang continent covers a vast, boundless land. There are thousands of dynasties in the huge territory, but the most powerful forces come from the old sections. There are different old sections. Some are strong, some are weak. Quite a few sects joined the easternmost hunting. Most of them are very strong enough for an empire, but they still don't deserve a mention in the Nanyang continent. The Wilderness Sword sect might be the only sect worth mentioning. Wang Yuan said with a smile. On hearing this, Jian Wushuang gave a strange look. Many of the geniuses from the 12 dynasties who attended the easternmost hunting desired to join the old sections. In Jian Wushuang's eyes, the old sects were attractive, but now Wang Yuan gave him a different perspective. Except for the Wilderness Sword sect, did the old sects deserve a mention? Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh. He felt his status was far from Wang Yuan's. He had limited experience because he was born in the Tianzong dynasty and never even stepped out of it. However, as the young master of the Elixir school, Wang Yuan held a different vision. Wang Yuan continued, Third younger brother, let me tell you the whole makeup of the Nanyang continent. The whole thing can be summarized in one sentence. 1 palace, 1 school, 3 valleys and 4 temples, 8 sects, as well as thousands of dynasties. Needless to say, thousands of dynasties refer to those dynasties in the Nanyang continent. Speaking of 3 valleys and 4 temples and 8 sects, the 8 sects refer to the 8 top sections. The Wilderness Sword sect is one of them, but in recent years, the Wilderness Sword sect has not made any progress, and their experts become less and less. It won't take long before it will be replaced with other sections. As for 3 valleys and 4 temples, the 7 forces were stronger than the 8 sects, but 3 valleys were much more powerful. Our 4th younger sister is from one of them, the Ice Nether Valley. Oh, Jian Wushuang looked towards Su Ro in surprise. He had been curious about Su Ro's origin. Now, he finally knew where she was from. It turned out that she came from the Ice Nether Valley, which was quite powerful and much stronger than the Wilderness Sword sect. As for 1 palace and 1 school, Wang Yuan had not yet finished what he was saying. Holy Emperor Palace and Elixir School. Jian Wushuang asked, facing Wang Yuan. Right. Wang Yuan nodded. Holy Emperor Palace and Elixir School are the 2 most powerful overlords in the Nanyang continent. They control countless dynasties and various sects, and rule the endless territory. Now you're targeted by Holy Emperor Palace, one of the 2 overlords. Jian Wushuang's face fell. In the Sky Valley, he had realized the force he faced was extremely powerful. So much so, the 12 dynasties, as well as the old sects, became frightened. He had not expected that he was targeted by Holy Emperor Palace, which was known as the Overlord in Nanyang. Since it was one of the most powerful forces, Jian Wushuang could not figure out why he could be its main target. Why would I attract such attention? Wang Yuan continued. Third younger brother, since you were chased by experts of the Blood Feather Tower and had to jump into the abyss, I became furious and wanted to exterminate Blood Feather Tower to avenge you. It was going smoothly for 2 months, but my father suddenly ordered me to stop seeking revenge against the Blood Feather Tower. I felt strange at that time. I finally realized that Holy Emperor Palace turned out to be the backer for the Blood Feather Tower. It is Holy Emperor Palace that has been trying to kill you. I was petrified. Wang Yuan sighed. Third younger brother, are you so strong that you're the target of the Holy Emperor Palace? I haven't figured out why Holy Emperor Palace wants to kill you. I've checked your record and know your life experience. I've also checked information about your parents, but I haven't found any evidence that you or your father have provoked Holy Emperor Palace. Your father has been targeted by Holy Emperor Palace. In order to catch him, it dispatched some experts to slaughter Ji clan with the help of the Blood Feather Tower. There must be a major reason why they eagerly want to kill you both. Wang Yuan turned to Jian Wushuang expectantly for his reply. Yang Zishuan and Su Ro also turned towards Jian Wushuang. Said Jian Wushuang, frowning. It's fine if you're unwilling to tell us, Wang Yuan said casually. It's not like that. In fact, I'm not quite clear about it myself. Jian Wushuang shook his head, looking upset. What he said was the truth. Though he had been hunted down by the Blood Feather Tower and the Holy Emperor Palace, he could not quite put a finger on why they were after him. He could only suspect that it might be related to the awakening of Sword Soul as well as Ancestor's land. However, when it came to the exact reasons why, he did not know. He had thought hard about it, but it was never certain. You don't even know why you became the Holy Emperor Palace's target either. Wang Yuan asked in astonishment. Jian Wushuang shrugged his shoulders with resignation. While the four of them were chatting, a figure suddenly showed up above the void nearby. It was a white-haired elder who was standing with his hands crossed. He looked downwards, his robe fluttering in the wind. Strangely, the white-haired elder came from nowhere without any aura emitted. These group of purple-robed people stood beside Wang Yuan. Dan Yi, who was an expert at the peak of the Yang Void realm and understood the origin, was usually vigilant, yet they did not notice when the white-haired elder showed up. One of the purple-robed people finally noticed the white-haired elder when he happened to look towards the void. Who is that? Finally realizing the white-haired elder's presence gave the purple-robed person a shock. The other purple-robed people all looked toward the elder. Dan Yi instantly shifted his feet and stood in front of the white-haired elder. Taking a closer look at the white-haired elder, Dan Yi was in shock. Although the white-haired elder looked ordinary with no aura emitted, Dan Yi knew that only a top expert could control his spiritual power to such an extent. The white-haired elder quietly stood there, but Dan Yi felt an unprecedented pressure. Dan Yi immediately recognized the white-haired elder. Divine Transcendence. Chapter 219, The Wine Master. Chapter 219, The Wine Master, Jian Wushuang, and the three others immediately noticed the white-haired elder. This man, Jian Wushuang, looked at the white-haired elder in astonishment. He felt as if the white-haired elder merged into nothingness because he could not sense the elder's existence if he closed his eyes. It was the first time that he had encountered such a strange feeling. The elder's identity was soon confirmed. The Divine Transcendence. This is the legendary master. Jian Wushuang had a serious look on his face. The Divine Transcendence was known to be a legend. This legendary expert was a rare sight even amidst the Nanyang continent. But there was one now, right before their eyes. The white-haired elder above the void smiled and slowly took a step forward. With only one stride, he had covered hundreds of feet across the void. He landed on the ground, standing before the four of them. Dan E. and the group of purple-robed people immediately stood beside Wang Yuan, lest the white-haired elder hurt Wang Yuan. "Old guy, who exactly are you?" Wang Yuan spoke with a hint of caution. Only Wang Yuan, of prominent status, dared to call the legendary master old guy. "I am the wine master," the white-haired elder answered. "Wine master? You are elder wine master." Wang Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Dan, he was also shocked. "You have heard about me?" Wine master looked at Wang Yuan with a faint smile. "I've heard my father mention elder wine master several times. He said that you were a close friend of his. You had even asked my father to help you refine elixirs." Wang Yuan changed his tone of voice and said the last point rather respectfully. "That's true," the wine master said with a smile. "I travel around the world and have a few friends, including your father." "Why do you come here, elder wine master?" Wang Yuan asked. The others let out a sigh of relief. They thought that the wine master would not hurt Wang Yuan, since he was their sect master's good friend of many years. "I came here not for you, but for him," Wine Master replied while pointing his finger at Yang Zishuan. "Me," Yang Zishuan said, slightly taken aback. He had never met the Wine Master. Moreover, there was a huge gap between their ranks, so it was impossible that he would have anything to do with Wine Master. He could not figure out what Wine Master would want with him. "Young man, what's your name?" Wine Master looked at Yang Zishuan and asked. "I'm Yang Zishuan," Yang Zishuan answered. "Yang Zishuan," Wine Master repeated in a quiet voice, and continued, "I'm carefree and live without being tied down anywhere. I always travel around the world alone with my wine pot and my saber. I passed by Sky Valley and saw you. You have good talent, and your bladesmanship is the same as mine. I want you to be my personal disciple. Would you like to accept it?" "Oh." Yang Zishuan stared at the wine master. Jian Wushuang and Su Ro also looked at Yang Zishuan in astonishment. The super expert comes here to call for a disciple. He will take on Yang Zishuan as his personal disciple. If news that a legendary master of divine transcendence was recruiting disciples spread, countless other experts would immediately rush over. However, this time, the wine master came to invite Yang Zishuan personally. This special treatment, even Jian Wushuang looked at Yang Zishuan with somewhat an envious look. This was an expert of divine transcendence. From what Wang Yuan said, they knew that the wine master must be extraordinarily powerful. How lucky it was to become the legendary expert's disciple. However, Yang Zishuan frowned slightly with a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. Wang Yuan spoke anxiously. "Second younger brother, why are you hesitating? Accept it quickly. Elder Wine Master is the top expert in the Nanyang continent. Even my father thinks highly of him. Elder Wine Master is righteous and straightforward, and always lives up to his word. He wants you to be his personal disciple, which is equal to getting pennies from the heaven. Accept it quickly." Second younger brother, Jian Wushuang cried. No one would miss such a great opportunity. It did not make sense for Yang Zishuan not to accept the chance. "Elder," Yang Zishuan said in a low voice. "To be honest, my name is Yang Tian. I rank number 1 on the bounty list of the Cosmos Empire. I afraid that I'll get you into trouble with the Cosmos Empire if I become your disciple. Moreover, I have one broken arm." "Ha, I thought you had graver worries. That is your main concern," Wine Master said with a faint smile. Wang Yuan had an odd look on his face. He had heard the story about the wine master. Although it was a large empire, the wine master would not put the Cosmos Empire in his eyes. The wine master said with a smile, "Kiddo, listen, don't worry about being my disciple. As for the Cosmos Empire, don't think so much about them. They don't have guts to piss me off. If you want revenge on Cosmos Empire, you can wait until you achieve more. You can do whatever you want, and I won't stop you. As for the severed arm, a purple fire body-shaping elixir can fix it. Though I don't have it now, I can go to ask the Elixir School to give me one." Upon hearing this, Yang Zishuan immediately knelt down and respectfully kowtowed to the wine master. "Disciple Yang Zishuan pays my respects to master." "Stand up," wine master said with a slight smile. Yang Zishuan instantly followed the order. "Since you are my disciple, you have to travel around with me. Would you be willing?" Wine master asked. "Your disciple is willing." Yang Zishuan nodded, without hesitation. "Good. Do you still have anything to settle? Do it as soon as possible. Once it's done, you can go with me," wine master said. "I have nothing else, so we can leave now," Yang Zishuan replied. "Then let's go," wine master said, with his body slightly floating. Yang Zishuan turned to look at Jian Wushuang, Wang Yuan, and Su Ro. "I will be going. Let us get together again when I come back," Yang Zishuan said seriously. "Please go," Wang Yuan spoke casually. "Second elder brother, congratulations," Jian Wushuang said with a smile. "Congratulations to you," Su Ro repeated. Yang Zishuan nodded in response and left with the wine master. Jian Wushuang and the other two stood there, heaving a sigh. A while ago, he was just talking with us. The next moment, he becomes wine master's disciple. How lucky he is. Jian Wushuang smiled. "A lucky guy. The wine master is the top expert. Countless geniuses are eager to be his disciple. Once second younger brother became his disciple, he must have been over the moon," Wang Yuan said. Chapter 220, Back to the Ancestor's Land. Chapter 220, Back to the Ancestor's Land. Third brother, you actually have more talent than Zishuan. It's possible if you want to be a disciple of an expert at the level of the divine transcendence. Do you want me to introduce you to some of the great experts in alchemy school? We also have a couple of experts of divine transcendence, said Wang Yuan with a smile. "Ha ha." Jian Wushuang smiled vaguely. "I guess I don't need it presently." Wang Yuan raised his eyebrows, not saying anything. "By the way, third brother, fourth sister, what are your upcoming plans?" Wang Yuan asked again. "I'm preparing to go back to the Ice Nether Valley," Su Ro answered softly. Jian Wushuang and Wang Yuan immediately looked over at Su Ro. "I've been gone for too long, and Master has urged me more than once to go back," said Su Ro. "Master?" Jian Wushuang was shocked. "Yi Chen has a good reputation, but I always think that he is hypocritical." Wang Yuan pursed his lips. "He is a good person." Su Ro argued timidly. Wang Yuan didn't comment much, but turned to Jian Wushuang. "What about you, third brother? How about going back to the alchemy school with me? The Holy Emperor Palace may be strong, but the alchemy school is capable of protecting you." "Protect me?" Jian Wushuang shook his head slightly. "I will pay a visit to the alchemy school in future, but I'm afraid I won't go with you now." Jian Wushuang didn't want to seek shelter under someone else's roof. He might find Wang Yuan at the alchemy school one day, but for now, things were not that bad. "Well, there's one place I'd really like now," said Jian Wushuang. "Where?" Wang Yuan asked. "The innumerable, huge mountains," Jian Wushuang said. "I'll send you off," Wang Yuan said. "All right, Jian Wushuang didn't refuse him this time. Then they set off again. Su Ro parted from them in the Tianzong dynasty. Meanwhile, Jian Wushuang, Wang Yuan, and his attendants headed to the innumerable huge mountains. Soon after, they appeared above the mountains. Third brother, I'll see you off here. I will go back to the alchemy school. If you're in need of any help, you can go to the place where I locked up Lin Yun. It's one of the contacting points of the alchemy school. The people on guard can contact me, said Wang Yuan. Okay, Jian Wushuang said, and nodded slightly. I shall go now. Wang Yuan patted the purple cloud condor he was riding as he finished speaking. The purple cloud condor flapped its wings and soon disappeared from Jian Wushuang's sight with the group of purple-robed people. After Wang Yuan left, Jian Wushuang took a breath and had a focused look in his eyes. Previously, I thought my enemy was only the Blood Feather Tower. But now I know the Blood Feather Tower is nothing more than a decoy. The Holy Emperor Palace is the monster manipulating them. After all, my strength is too weak. I initially wanted to be admitted by those old sects in the easternmost hunting. However, none of the old sects may even accept me since they knew that the Holy Emperor Palace wanted to kill me. As for the alchemy school, it is true that they can act as a counterweight to the Holy Emperor Palace, but I have to bother Wang Yuan if I want to seek for a shelter there. Even if I do enter the alchemy school, I have to spend the rest of my life hiding there, which is definitely something I do not want. Therefore, it seems that I have to depend on no one but myself. The only place that can strengthen my skills is the Ancestor's land. Jian Wushuang stared at the abyss in the innumerable huge mountains with a shimmer in his eyes. Thereafter, he headed for the abyss. The abyss was known as the first impasse in the innumerable huge mountains. Jian Wushuang also knew underneath the abyss was the Ancestor's land. The last time Jian Wushuang entered the abyss was to escape the haunt of the Blood Feather Tower. He had no choice but to jump in the abyss for survival. Now Jian Wushuang looked at the dark abyss that appeared so deep that he could not see the bottom. Streaks of cold wind swirled inside the abyss, fierce and strong. He jumped off without hesitation. As he jumped into the abyss, a chilling wind swept over him. At once, a layer of spiritual shield emerged from his body, blocking the cold wind with easiness. He kept hurtling downwards and eventually landed at the bottom of the abyss. After regaining his balance, Jian Wushuang looked up dizzily. The abyss is badly perceived by many, but in fact, I meet no danger except for the chilling wind. Perhaps any Void expert is able to easily come here, Jian Wushuang murmured. Just as he finished speaking, a cold sneer rang out abruptly. The next moment, Jian Wushuang saw the honest, strong man who had given him the selfless sword technique at the sword tomb and a beautiful woman who stood next to him. The woman was beautiful, but kept a cold face. The two people walked towards him slowly. Thanks to the triple kill sword, you didn't meet any trouble along the way in the abyss. As for others, even a young Void Realm warrior would find it extremely dangerous to get to the bottom. Even if they got here, we would kill them right away, the absolute beauty said in a cold voice. Seeing the stunning beauty and the strong man, Jian Wushuang bent himself a little. Glad to meet you again. Little boy, you've come here again? The woman looked over at Jian Wushuang indifferently. I remember telling you to come back, only if you break through to the Nanyang Void Realm. But now you are only in the exceptional Gold Core Realm. So, what are you doing here? Said the strong man. The beautiful woman and the strong man were a little frustrated. Previously, when Jian Wushuang was here, he was quite weak, only in the initial Gold Core Realm. Since he came to the abyss with no other choice, they did not hold it against him and even gave him some gifts. However, They warned him the last time not to come back until he reached Nanyang Void Realm. But Jian Wushuang came here with only exceptional gold core realm. I come here to take the trial of the Ancestor's land, Jian Wushuang said directly. Take the trial? You? The beautiful woman looked down at him with a hint of scorn in her eyes. Boy, don't you know that only an expert of the Nanyang Void Realm was qualified to take the simplest first trial of the 3 trials of the Ancestor's land? The strong man yelled. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded. But I also know that my father took the trial with the exceptional gold core realm, and he passed it. You are not your father. He was extremely talented, and he had extraordinary strength in battle at that time. That's why we broke the rule and let him take the trial. But do you think you can compare with your father? The beautiful woman said in a low voice. I can. Jian Wushuang nodded without hesitation. Chapter 221, Demonic Puppet. Chapter 221, Demonic Puppet. His answer was so powerful and determined that the Absolute Beauty and the strong man were a little shocked. The Absolute Beauty looked Jian Wushuang deep in his eyes and roared in a low voice, Demon 13. Clang! The ground in front of Jian Wushuang suddenly tore open. Then a human-shaped demonic puppet wearing a greenish-black battlesuit appeared. The demonic puppet held one sword in each hand, but he didn't give out any breath. You said you can match your father, but it's easier said than done. This demonic puppet is the weakest one among all the demonic puppets in the Ancestor's land. So as long as you defeat it, I will approve of your strength and allow you to take the Ancestor's land's trial. But if you can't beat this demonic puppet, you'd better get your ass out of here, said the Absolute Beauty in a cold tone. Defeat it. Jian Wushuang looked at the demonic puppet in greenish-black armor. Since it didn't reveal any aura, he didn't have a clue about the puppet's strength unless they were to start fighting. I will have a try. A touch of battle intent emerged in Jian Wushuang's eyes as the triple kill sword appeared in his hand. The demonic puppet didn't possess any wisdom, so as the Absolute Beauty ordered, it stamped on the ground and then dashed towards Jian Wushuang, piercing through the air along the way. Swoosh! The demonic puppet appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and then waved the 2 long swords in its hands, chopping at Jian Wushuang in succession. With no sword essence and no majestic swordsmanship, it only attacked with pure physical power. However, this power was unexpectedly threatening. Jian Wushuang's triple kill sword cut out immediately, but when it clashed with the 2 long swords, clang! Jian Wushuang couldn't help but be forced back rapidly. Such strong power, it might be stronger than those experts at the peak of the Yin Void Realm, or even not far from those in the initial of Yang Void Realm. Jian Wushuang was secretly astonished. The Absolute Beauty sneered at him. Boy, though Demon 13 is the weakest among all the demonic puppets in the Ancestor's land, it is at the peak of the Yin Void Realm. Moreover, as a demonic puppet, despite it knowing nothing about sword technique and sword essence, its power, speed, and defending ability are far beyond an average human warrior at the peak of the Yin Void Realm, and possibly not much weaker than people in the Yang Void Realm. When your father came here, he also fought with Demon 13. At that time, your father was already in the extreme of exceptional gold core realm, and he combined 3 special essences, Dark, Light, and Thunderbolt. Though he had mighty battle strength and brutal swordsmanship, it took him no less than 20 breaths' time to beat the demonic puppet down. And you'll be lucky to last for 20 breaths, not to mention defeating it. When the Absolute Beauty finished her words, the demonic puppet rushed out again. Swoosh! A horrible wind swept out. The demonic puppet carried out its simple chopping attacks. However, the power given out by the 2 long swords was terrifying. 20 breaths. Jian Wushuang laughed. Then he thrust out his triple kill sword, demonstrating the third move of the selfless sword technique, Sky Isolating Form. At the same time, 4 sword essences were combined, and the power of his swordsmanship burst out. A mighty and golden flowing light clashed directly with the 2 swords. The shock wave spread out, forcing the demonic puppet backward. Jian Wushuang's figure moved swiftly like a ghost, and then appeared next to the demonic puppet. Shua, a sparkling sword shadow cut towards the demonic puppet's waist. The demonic puppet's strength was brutal indeed, but it knew no fighting skills, and its body was clumsy. It couldn't escape the sword shadow from Jian Wushuang. But it seemed that the demonic puppet didn't plan to dodge. It's useless. The demonic puppet was made by special materials, and the greenish-black armor on its body is extremely firm and tenacious. Even a normal warrior at the peak of the Void realm cannot hurt it easily, and before finishing her words, the absolute beauty was stunned. The sword shadow given out by Jian Wushuang was heading toward the demonic puppet as if it could rip everything apart. When it chopped at its waist and scratched out, Shua, the entire stomach of the demonic puppet was cut open. Since it was a puppet, neither blood nor organs rushed out. How could this be possible? The absolute beauty and the strong man were both shocked. Origin. The absolute beauty looked over at Jian Wushuang immediately. She sensed the mysterious power in Jian Wushuang's sword. It was undoubtedly the origin. No wonder you are so confident to compare yourself with your father. You should have mastered the origin. The absolute beauty stared at Jian Wushuang. The origin you mastered includes the 4 essences of earth, gale, fire, and water, so it should be the combined origin of the world. Origin of the world. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Though he knew he had mastered an origin, he didn't know which type it was. Now he knew that what he comprehended was the origin of the world. Fine, since you can comprehend origin at the primordial gold core level, your battle strength is certainly more powerful than your father's. I admit that you're qualified to take the trial of the Ancestor's land, said the absolute beauty. Jian Wushuang, however, just slightly smiled. Boy, although you can take the trial, I shall warn you that the trial of Ancestor's land is not easy at all. It's great if you pass it, but if you don't, you will die in the trial, so you need to be prepared, the absolute beauty said. If I can't pass, I will die? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. My father also knew the danger of the trial, but he took it without hesitation because he was confident of his strength. And now I am even stronger than my father was. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands, and a hint of determination rose in his eyes. Fortune comes with danger, and Jian Wushuang knew this very well. Since he came to the Ancestor's land to improve his strength, he had been ready to take risks. Let's do it. Jian Wushuang looked at the absolute beauty and said in a low voice, Okay, come with me. The absolute beauty looked back and led the way with the strong man. Before long, guided by the absolute beauty, Jian Wushuang arrived at a pitch-black palace whose gate was closed. The first test of the Ancestor's land is in the palace, the absolute beauty said. Chapter 222, Kill. Chapter 222, Kill. Jingle. The gate of the pitch-black palace suddenly opened. Jian Wushuang immediately looked inside, but there was only darkness. Go in, the absolute beauty said. Jian Wushuang breathed deeply, and then entered the palace without hesitation. The absolute beauty and the strong man followed him. The palace was still in total darkness, and nothing was visible. What is the test of the Ancestor's land? Jian Wushuang frowned and looked around. Little guy, are you ready? The test is coming. The voice of the absolute beauty came from behind him. Although Jian Wushuang heard her voice, he couldn't see her. However, as the absolute beauty finished it, suddenly, kill, kill, kill. 3 roars reverberated in the palace. Jian Wushuang felt an unprecedented and horrible murderous gaze coming toward him. Rumble! Jian Wushuang's brain roared instantly. Damn it! All of the people belonging to Blood Feather Tower have to die. Kill them! All of you have to die. With eyes instantly turning ruddy, Jian Wushuang roared, and his face awfully contorted. A deafening sound echoed, and Jian Wushuang's mind was imbued with killing intent. The killing intent was extraordinarily huge. This time, it was engulfing Jian Wushuang's heart and seemed to have covered his whole heart and body. At the moment when the terrific killing intent burst out, Jian Wushuang was still forced to retain a vestige of awareness. He continued to roar with his head in his hands. His veins were accentuated, but his eyes still showed a vestige of awareness. It was this vestige of awareness that allowed him to keep a cool head. Otherwise, he would become a demon. However, at this point, kill, kill, kill. Another 3 roars echoed in the palace. The 3 roars contained more terrific killing intent than before. Jian Wushuang's eyes grew scarlet, but at this point he bit the tip of his tongue and dug his fingernails into his palms. The sharp pain generated by the flowing blood made his fading awareness appear again. Zoom! Everything disappeared suddenly. The killing intent which filled his brain and engulfed everything disappeared. Jian Wushuang's sight slowly became clearer, but his body was bent with his head down as he breathed deeply. Although it was very transient, Jian Wushuang felt that he had died twice. The killing intent was incredibly terrifying and occupied his body and heart. Fortunately, after so many years of experience, his heart was stronger than warriors at the same level, thus he could keep himself awake. Otherwise, if his whole body and heart were occupied by the killing intent, he would become a bona fide madman who only knew how to kill. At this point, it would hard to awaken again. Little guy, how about that? A figure emerged at Jian Wushuang's side. It was the absolute beauty. Was this the first test of the Ancestor's land? Jian Wushuang slightly raised his head and looked at the absolute beauty. No, it wasn't. I would not require you to come until you reached the Void realm, if that was the first test. The absolute beauty sneered. What you suffered was the first step of the first test. It was only the beginning. If you couldn't pass it, you would be unable to take the real test. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang frowned instantly, but the determination in his eyes was no less than before. Ha! Your temper is the same as your father's. Both of you are indomitable. Seeing Jian Wushuang's eyes, the absolute beauty smiled slightly. Then she appeared in a corner of the palace and waved, causing a door to appear in the dark palace. This is the real first test of the Ancestor's land. Get in, the absolute beauty said. Jian Wushuang stood up. After his state had slowly recovered, he entered the door. As soon as Jian Wushuang entered, the door closed instantly. This time, the absolute beauty and the strong man did not follow Jian Wushuang. However, in fact, he was still in the palace and in front of the absolute beauty and the strong man, but he was oblivious to this. This guy has entered the illusory realm of slaughter. Seeing Jian Wushuang looking around ignorantly in front of her, the absolute beauty said seriously, once entering the illusory realm of slaughter, what he sees is an illusion. I don't know whether he can distinguish this. The strong man said. The absolute beauty said coldly, He may lose himself any time for what he feels is very real, and he has to stay in the illusion for a long time even if he knows that it is an illusion. What is most important is that the aim of the test of the illusory realm of slaughter isn't whether he can distinguish between reality and illusion or not. He has great talent, but it'll be hard to pass it. According to the rule of the Ancestor's land, if he doesn't pass it, what we should do is kill him. The Ancestor's land had its rule. In the 3 tests of the Ancestor's land, the first one was the most rigorous. You must die if you took it, but failed. However, the second and the third test were not rigorous like the first one. If someone did not pass them, he would still be alive, although he would not have another chance to take them. It's highly possible for him to pass it because he has comprehended the origin, the strong man said. Maybe the absolute beauty said, and then they silently waited for Jian Wushuang. As for Jian Wushuang, upon entering the door, he was in the illusion. What he found was that he was in a paradise. He was in a quiet and peaceful village. There was no discord nor slaughter, but peace. The sun was setting, and the smoke curled slowly from the chimney in the village. Jian Wushuang appeared in the gate of the village. He was ignorant and looked around. Where am I? Jian Wushuang frowned. He didn't know where he was, but he knew his identity and that he took the first test in the Ancestor's land. The quiet and peaceful village should be the testing scene. This is an illusion, Jian Wushuang thought secretly. Chapter 2:23, The Illusory Realm of Slaughter, Part 1. Chapter 2:23, The Illusory Realm of Slaughter, Part 1. Although he knew that it was an illusion, what he experienced was so real. With the breeze blowing, Jian Wushuang felt refreshed. After looking at this quiet and peaceful village, Jian Wushuang slowly approached it. In the village, there were a lot of people. When Jian Wushuang was walking on the street, the passers-by were all looking at him. Oh, a foreigner? Hi. A hunchbacked old man with gray hair smiled and said, carrying a sword, he seems to be a strong man. Is he stronger than those strong men in our village? A stout man with black skin wearing hides said. The foreigner is handsome. A loving girl looked at Jian Wushuang and then left with alacrity. Jian Wushuang was walking in the village and saw some people greeting him, which made him look queer. Hey boy. A crude voice sounded out. Jian Wushuang turned his head to look at the house. In front of the house, a stout man sitting on the ground casually and holding a pot of wine said with a smile, foreigners hardly come here. Come over, just have a drink. Saying that, the stout man threw his pot to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang held the pot, pulling the plug. He smelled and drank it. The wine contained much alcohol. After drinking it, Jian Wushuang felt a pungent feeling running through his whole body. It's an illusion, but the feeling is real. The taste of the wine is also the same as in reality. Looking at the pot, Jian Wushuang formed an odd expression. He threw the pot to the stout man and kept on going without stopping. Be careful. A man, carrying a huge piece of wood, passed by Jian Wushuang. The huge wood was very long and thick, so it was easy for it to strike people. As a result, the man warned Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang stepped aside from the man. But at this point, a child who seemed to be 5 or 6 years old, holding a drum-shaped rattle, appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and hopped toward him. When the child approached Jian Wushuang, he stopped and raised his head, staring at Jian Wushuang with his big eyes. Brother, are you a foreigner? The naive child asked. Jian Wushuang looked at this child before he smiled slightly and then nodded. You are a real foreigner. It's my first time seeing a foreigner. The voice of the child was filled with surprise. Who's he? A middle-aged woman came over. "Mom." The child ran toward the woman instantly. The woman held the child in her hands and then walked to Jian Wushuang. "Are you a foreigner?" the affable middle-aged woman asked. "Yes," Jian Wushuang said, and nodded slightly. "For a long time, no foreigner has come to our village. Come on, I can cook noodles for you in my shop." The middle-aged woman was enthusiastic. Jian Wushuang lifted his brows. Nodding his head, he followed the woman without hesitation and then arrived at the woman's shop. Jian Wushuang sat down in front of a square table. The woman was cooking noodles, and the child was playing alone in the shop. "Here." Jian Wushuang looked around, and a smile grew on his face. This village was a real paradise. The village was quiet and peaceful, and the people here were hospitable as well as amiable. It would be nice if the village is real. Jian Wushuang thought secretly, but he knew that an illusion was an illusion and reality was reality. The law of the jungle was real, and a powerhouse was respected in the reality. A place like this village would probably not exist. What is the test of the ancestors' land? Jian Wushuang was confounded. By now, what he saw was really nice. He suspected that the aim of the test was letting him sink into this fantasy. But this might be too easy. Although everything here was nice, it was in the illusion. Even if he had stayed here for decades, he could still distinguish reality from this illusion. "Brother." When Jian Wushuang was thinking, the child came over. Jian Wushuang looked at the child casually, and the child rose his head. But just then, the naive child's eyes flashed a coldness, and then a dagger appeared in his hands. The dagger was proceeding toward Jian Wushuang's heart at this moment. "What?" Although Jian Wushuang was shocked, his reaction was very fast as he quickly held the child's arms. Compared to Jian Wushuang, the child was very weak, so the dagger was suspended in the air and could not continue forward. The child's face was contorted and imbued with madness. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. At this moment, a supersonic voice sounded out. Jian Wushuang glanced at the child's side and found that the middle-aged woman, who was previously enthusiastic, was dashing toward him. The middle-aged woman held a kitchen knife and chopped toward Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang shifted his body, and he appeared outside as the kitchen knife chopped on the square table. My spiritual power. The complexion of Jian Wushuang was serious. When he dodged the attack from the middle-aged woman, he perceived that at that moment he should not use any spiritual power. Although he was in the exceptional gold core realm and he could void walk, at this moment he could not use any spiritual power just like a normal person. Whoosh! With the majestic wind blowing, Jian Wushuang lowered his head subliminally, and then a huge piece of wood ran over his head. Jian Wushuang turned and found that the stout man previously holding the huge piece of wood was staring at him crazily. "These people are all mad." Jian Wushuang frowned. This frenzied scene stood in sharp contrast to the previously quiet and peaceful image. Whoosh! A cold light emerged, and Jian Wushuang stepped away to dodge it. He saw that the stout man who drank with him before was filled with huge killing intent. Rumble! The whole village was immersed in the tumult. A cascade of people walked out and held arms. Someone held a kitchen knife. Someone held a hoe. Someone held a sickle. There was a wide assortment of arms the people were holding. Jian Wushuang was surrounded by hundreds of people. Everyone was crazy. They were all staring at Jian Wushuang, their eyes filled with killing intent. Chapter 224, The Illusory Realm of Slaughter, Part 2. Chapter 224, The Illusory Realm of Slaughter, Part 2. What on earth happened? Jian Wushuang looked at the crowd. while frowning. Among the crowd, there were many people who had treated him enthusiastically, such as the humpbacked elder with gray hair, the stout man who wore an animal skin, and the young girl who praised his handsomeness. Now, they were gazing at him with killing intent. Die! Die! Go to hell! Kill him! Low growls sounded from the crowd, and then people crazily dashed toward Jian Wushuang. Kitchen knives, hoes, sickles, and even butchers' knives were thrown at Jian Wushuang. Shit! After noticing it, Jian Wushuang's face changed. Ordinarily, he would walk on the air to leave when encountering such a situation. But now he was unable to use any spiritual power, so he could not void walk. Seeing the crowd dashing toward him, Jian Wushuang's expression turned cold, and he abruptly drew his triple kill sword. Baiyu, after being drawn out of the sheath, the long sword transformed into a flowing light, instantly sweeping through 6 people who were rushing toward Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang now was unable to use his spiritual power, his swordsmanship and comprehension of the sword essence could be used. Now Jian Wushuang faced the situation his father had encountered. When trapped in the 9 Emperors sect, his father didn't possess any spiritual power because of his broken dantian, but he killed an expert of the initial Yin Void realm with merely 1 stroke. Without using spiritual power, Jian Wushuang could easily deal with those ordinary men by means of his swordsmanship and comprehension of the sword essence. Qi, 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 qi. 6 sounds sounded out simultaneously. At that moment, the 6 men's wrists were pushed away by Jian Wushuang. Despite all this, those 6 men still crazily pounced on him and violently attacked him. Jian Wushuang's face turned dark. He realized that he should absolutely show them no mercy, otherwise he would be killed eventually. After thinking carefully, Jian Wushuang no longer hesitated. Go to hell! The triple kill sword was wielded, and instantly the sharp sword light cut through the throats of several people around him. Slaughter! Crazy slaughter! Only streaks of unbridled sword shadow could be seen. These ordinary people didn't have any ability to resist, and were thus killed one by one. While Jian Wushuang was slaughtering, crazily wielding his long sword in the palace, the absolute beauty and the strong man retreated to the corner and looked straight ahead at Jian Wushuang. Streaks of sword light actually chopped through the void. But for Jian Wushuang, every sword wielded by him was stained with blood. He is totally sunk into the illusory realm of slaughter, the strong man said in a low voice. The absolute beauty said seriously, the illusory realm of slaughter is an endless slaughter. Whoever he meets in the illusory will be desperate to kill him, and he has to force himself to keep slaughtering. The more people he slaughters, the stronger his killing intent will be. In the end, he will be numb in slaughter. Once he is numb, his mentality will change. It depends on whether he is able to follow his heart to carry on. In this world, killing was not a big deal. It was tough to change one's mentality by killing 1, 10, or even 100 people. However, when one killed thousands of people, or even more who just were ordinary people, regardless of who they were, their mentality would change or become distorted. As for the illusory realm, there were 2 kinds of trials. One was changing mentality. If under the circumstances of being forced to slaughter, Jian Wushuang changed his mentality to one of a great devil who was addicted to slaughtering and was indifferent to others' lives, he would have failed in the trial. Unless he retained his original mentality and carried on bravely from the beginning to the end, he would then be able to arrive at the end of the illusory realm of slaughter. There was a long way to go. It all depended on Jian Wushuang himself. Within the illusory realm, the tranquility and quietness of the original village had disappeared. The whole village was covered in blood, like it was an entire sea of blood. Numbers of corpses lay in a state of disarray in the street, including the elderly, children, and women. All of them were ordinary people. To Jian Wushuang, an expert of the sword principle, they were physically weak. But now, they were all killed by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was standing up in blood while trembling slightly. Even though he knew that everything merely was illusory, he felt unnatural. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang managed to calm himself down as he looked around. Previously, the village made me feel peace and warmth. Shortly afterward, all of the villagers began attacking me ferociously. Jian Wushuang shook his head slightly. What on earth is the first trial of the Ancestor's land? Jian Wushuang couldn't understand it. He followed his original mentality, the same as in the Illusory realm. In the beginning, he showed mercy to those villagers who were proactive in trying to kill him. He didn't kill them until he found that it was useless to show them mercy. What he did shook him, but he soon calmed himself. He didn't feel remorse. After he left the village, Jian Wushuang kept moving forward. He didn't know where to go, but he was guided by a will of the unseen world, which led him to keep moving forward. As time went by, Jian Wushuang had no idea how far he had already traveled in the illusory realm. Similarly, he couldn't remember how many people he had killed. In short, whoever saw Jian Wushuang pass by would dash toward him crazily to kill him, while he reacted against them with slaughter. He had to protect himself. Going so far and killing thousands of people, Jian Wushuang had already become numb. Momentarily, he arrived at the edge of a majestic mountaintop with a bottomless cliff at the front. Beside the edge of the cliff, a stone tablet was erected, which had 3 scratched words carved into it. Cliff of Repentance. Jian Wushuang stopped to look at the 3 words on the stone tablet. In repentance, there is a salvation. A resonating voice sounded suddenly. When Jian Wushuang turned his head, he saw a green-clothed elder who wore a straw hat standing barefoot beside a huge stone. The green-clothed elder was covered with dirt, but his eyes were sparkling, staring at Jian Wushuang. Seeing him, Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. Warrior! Jian Wushuang felt spiritual power from the green-clothed elder. Although his spiritual power was not so strong and only reached primordial gold core realm, he was the first warrior who Jian Wushuang had met after arriving in the illusory realm.